welcome to the November 18th, 2020 Select Board meeting for the town of Ashland. Pursuant to laws and information presented by Governor Baker, we are still all meeting virtually and via Zoom. So the full Select Board is here. We were in executive session, so I will not be doing another roll call vote for our Select Board because we are all here. I will go into citizens participation because we do have a hearing at 6:10. So citizens participation. Before I do that, just a reminder, please do not use the chat, even though it's available and open. Please do not use the chat function because we are not recording the meeting, so any chat is not being recorded. Okay, Mark, go ahead, unmute yourself and you can start.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
And through the chairman to the town manager, great newspaper article in the Eversource in the Sunday paper.
Thank you.
I see that we people are thinking about the same thing, about the same way, about the same issues.
Yeah.
And the article was very informative, straight to the point, and hopefully helpful to all parties involved. So I thank you, Mike, town manager, to get that article in the paper and maybe put Eversource out front where they shipped along and tell the truth to everybody that's involved with the properties and the pipe itself. Thank you. That's it.
Thanks. I like Rob's quote better, quite frankly.
A ploy. Yeah.
But thank you, Mark.
Great.
He cut
Thank
me
you,
off,
Mark.
Mike.
Okay, moving on our agenda. Is there anyone else for citizens participation? I feel like there were more people sitting in the waiting room that are not showing, but maybe not. No? Okay. I know our hearing's at 6:10, but I'm going to start the process to get us into it. I'm going to read the notice. Legal notice for a public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Select Board will conduct a public hearing for change of location for an existing Class 2 sale of used cars currently located at 83A Nickerson Road. The Ashland applicant is requesting to move to 14 to 16 Nickerson Road. The applicant is Mukesh Mohit Mathura, owner of MX Motors. The public hearing will be held on Wednesday, November 18th, 2020 using Zoom. Meeting information will be posted on the agenda, which can be found on the town website, www.ashlandmash.com. The hearing will take place at 6:10 p.m. Persons wishing to be heard on this matter are invited to attend the public hearing by logging into the Zoom meeting. Interested parties who are unable to attend the hearing may submit written comments to the Select Board's office, Town Hall 101 Main Street, Ashland, Mass, or by emailing Susan Roby at sroby@ashlandmass.com. I now open the hearing. So I see we have Raj here. Raj, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And then Susan, did we get any communication via email regarding this issue? No, thank you very much.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So if you would take us through your application and what you're looking for, we do have your documents, but we'll let you start by talking to us about this change.
Okay, yeah, we have an existing 30-car license at 83A, and I would like to transfer that to 16, the commercial building on the 16 Nickerson Road. And basically operations would continue the same. I am taking over the business from my dad. We did establish a new LLC and sent that information to Susan Roby. But the way the business operates would remain the same. The views, the buying, the selling, the servicing cars to the local mechanics would all remain the same. There wouldn't be any change into the business overview in the way we conduct business.
Okay, and would you be moving all operations to 1416 or would some of it stay at 83A?
No, everything would be moved.
Okay. Okay. I actually drove by there. I went and took a ride and looked, and so yeah, 1416 is a little bit bigger. I'm going to open it up to the board for questions on this change of location. Anybody on the board? Steve, go ahead. You're muted, Steve. You have to unmute, Steve.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Good evening to the applicants. Hey, I don't want to be a nitpicker, but a question on the number of vehicles you have listed at 30. And I'm looking at your chart and looking at your color coding and so on,
Yes.
and I only come up with 29.
We're gonna put one on top of the other.
There may have been one left out. We did try to scale it according to size, and that was just at its full capacity. And as I was, there was some inside and there's some that would be off site. We generally have multiple vehicles at mechanics. Some would obviously definitely stay inside. And we did mean to put 30 for the outside part, but one of them may have got left out for when we were scaling it.
It looks like you've got the space there. I'm just,
Right.
It's not a big deal, but it just,
Right.
I looked at it and said, okay, it only comes up to, and then when I counted inside, there were 4 slots inside. I said, well, that's 33 now. So,
Right, I wasn't sure if we could count those, so I didn't know exactly what to put, but 30 was enough for us, and we can fit more than 30, but that would be at its full capacity, and being the same as what we have now.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns regarding this transfer? Okay. And I'm not seeing any. Oh, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry. I got pushed off. I couldn't find the right button to get back on. Raj, I wish you the very best. One of the concerns that I do have is that every time we do a Class 2 license, there always seems to be the need to put more vehicles than have been suggested that'll be on the license. And that's a real pet peeve of mine. And so you have 30 vehicles that you're requesting to put on that property. And I did drive by over the weekend. I always do that. This is always a big concern for me. But at the same token, I noticed there was more than enough land property to put the vehicles there. Is there any intention to put more than 30 vehicles there? Because if you intend to do that, you ask for more than 30 vehicles. If not, then you'll be in violation of the license,
Right.
that you're requesting. So are you just going to put 30 vehicles there?
Yeah,
on site?
That was the intention, was a 30 maximum. I was trying to also do it by what was scaled, and during different seasons, we do carry more vehicles, and comfortably I keep around 20, but during different times of the year, we do come close to 30. If I could, get that, I couldn't scale it properly with the way it was for more than 30, but if I could get a 35 car license, yeah, we would absolutely use that just to be on the safe side in compliance with the licensing. That would be great. But I don't intend on going beyond what the license says.
Okay. Then I would suggest just to go with the 30 and then, is there feedback on the sound?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Then I would suggest just to go with the 30. And if you see that there's going to be an additional need, maybe you can come back with a request to amend that number.
Okay.
Let's see how your business goes at that location, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Excellent. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are there any other questions, Brandy or Rob, for the applicant? Pretty straightforward. The parking is always the questionable thing, and the number of
I'm
licenses.
okay.
Okay. If there is nothing else, I would look for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. We're just going to raise our hands. All those in favor of closing the hearing say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries 5-0. Thank you. So there was no one here to speak against this that I can see. So if I could get a motion to approve of MX Autos having a 30-car license to sell cars, Class 2, at 1416 Nickerson Road.
So moved.
And great. I have a motion and a second. And again, I think it's pretty straightforward. All those in favor of allowing this to happen, raise your hands. Aye.
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 Great. That passes 5-0. Raj, congratulations. You have been approved for a new Class 2 license at 1416 Nickerson Road for 30 cars. Hopefully moving closer to the main road will be a little more successful for you.
Yep.
And
Well, he's got a good teacher, so I'm sure he's going to be very
I'm sure he's
successful.
going to be fine.
I've been doing this for 40 years, so
Oh, wow.
he'll be fine.
Great.
Happy retirement. I hope you have a
Thank
nice
you.
long
Oh, no,
time.
I can't retire. I got to keep an eye on him still. You know that, Joe.
I do.
And thank you for staying in Ashland. We appreciate you continuing to do your business
Absolutely,
here.
absolutely.
Great. Well,
Thank
good
you,
luck.
Thank you. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you very much. You too.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay. Moving on our agenda, we have Mark Oram, and I saw him on. Mark retired officially last Friday after many years of service. Mark, welcome to our select board meeting.
Thank you, Yolanda. How you doing?
As I said in my email, I was sorry I didn't get to come see you in person to congratulate you.
Well, again, thank you. It's been a long time, and I really thank everyone for the well wishes. It's even Human Resources for what they decided to do so I could have my goodbyes. So, and many thanks to the selectmen, the Board of Health, management. Well, it's been a nice ease out, and as I always note, I'm available. You just call me. 38 years is a lot up there.
Wow.
Maybe retract it and get it back out to you. So anytime I'm available at your request.
Well, I am seeing Diane Mortensen, the chair of our Board of Health. Diane, I'm going to ask you to say a few words about this, if you're willing.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a meeting last night as well to recognize Mark. Almost 38 years of service. It's been a long road, a lot of town managers, a lot of different board members from Board of Health, a lot of different select board members as well. So it's been an interesting ride. Mark and I were talking about all the long memories that we have working for the town. So thank you, Mark, once again for all your years of service.
So
Thank you.
Mark, how many town managers have you worked through?
I lost count.
That's a neutral comment.
There you go.
Joe's been with us as well. Diane and Joe have been with us for these years as well. So,
Well, I'm going to miss you. So I didn't have the opportunity to wish you well, but I knew we were going to do this tonight. So I just want to wish you the very best in your future endeavors. And you were a consummate professional at your job. And I appreciate all your assistance over the years. Now I'm worried who's going to take over Green Up Ashland.
well, actually, Joe, the way I handled that was over the past few years, pretty much empowered some of our community members, as well as Lisa Yu from Human Resources is part of it now, as well as Frank from Sustainability. So there's some mix of town/community members, government members and communities. So it's going to flow great. I'm glad you brought up Green Up. That's a nice asset for the town. And thank you for all your help with it too, because you've all had that pavilion ready for us, and that's truly appreciated.
We'll always have it ready for whomever takes over.
Excellent. Karen Dan will be kind of steering that ship, as they say. So that'll be your go-to person.
Great.
Other
And
select
I
board
could just
members,
add-
Rob? Yep, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I just, Mark, it's been great working with you. We've go back many years, and at various times, you've always been very helpful and responsive. And Joe reminded me about the Green Up Ashland and you being there at the pavilion every year for I don't know how many years. So, thanks. And are you continuing with the Marlboro City Council, or how's that?
Yes, yes. I love government. Might
Yeah.
it be on public health side or the representative side. So I'm hoping to remain there, and who knows where else I may go. I just love government, government. So thank you, Rob. Maybe we'll see each other at a Mass Municipal Association.
Yeah, maybe, you know, I guess we should probably warn you about all this municipal involvement. It can be, you know, I guess it's too late to warn you about that.
No, I dived into it a long time ago, but it's great. I enjoy it.
Oh, that's good. Well, thanks. It's great working with you.
You as well. You're very welcome.
Randy or Steve?
Randy, go ahead. You go first.
Go ahead, Randy.
Oh, okay, thanks. I had the pleasure of being on the retirement Zoom with Mark last Friday. And what I loved most was hearing all the stories and things shared from so many people, everything from, you know, your involvement with the Nyanza remediation and, you know, Green Up and then also, you know, the funny stories, the story about the yellow hazmat suit and the fact that that I found out that you have the best singing voice of all of town hall. So
I don't know about that.
All right, let's hear it.
So no, but truly 38 years is a real accomplishment. I know I'm the newest member of the board, so I haven't worked with you nearly as much as the other members, but you know, it's this past year and a half has been a huge challenge between Triple E and then this year, you know, with COVID, it's been a real challenge, and I just thank you for your leadership and for all the work that you've put in and all the many years of service, and you know, we thank you on behalf of our community. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to work for the town.
Steve?
So Mark, I had an opportunity to see you at the staff send-off as well. But one of the things that I neglected to mention at that point was, you know, all the assistance that you gave to the farmers market from day one, and you know, all of that guidance that allowed it to be as successful as it is, and really, you know, made it what it is in many ways. So particularly this year with the you know, with COVID-19 and you know, meeting you know, and working through all the necessary protocols and so on. So I thank you for that. For, you know, we're going on now almost 10 years. So
yes, that's a great feature for the town.
Yeah. So best wishes on all your future endeavors. You know, hopefully you'll get to enjoy retirement as much as I do. And it really, it sounds like you've got the activities in place to do that, you know. So, you know, all I can tell you is give it hell.
You bet. Thank
Michael,
you.
did you
No,
want
no,
to
I was
end or no?
I was just going to say, you know, I was on the call, the goodbye Zoom call that we had with Mark last week. You know, as everybody has said, Mark's worked for 38 years here. He is. It's funny. I knew about Mark before I even came here. In the previous municipality I worked in, he was working with Dory. I can't remember the last name of the Health and Human Services director in Newton, but they were trying out this software called WinWham. And so I always knew of Mark as like the WinWham guy. That's the food inspection stuff. So when I came into town, that's kind of like how I knew about Mark. And then I've just had an opportunity again over the last 7 years to work with him and, you know, see how he has carried himself as a professional through really some challenging times, which is something I mentioned last week. Just he always kept his head held up, and he always acted professionally, and even through some very stressful times. So it's something that I always appreciated about him, something I felt like I could always learn from, and we'll miss him. So.
Well, thank you, Michael. And a little funny note, if I may. In my office, I swear there's like a crystal ball because I keep pictures up of past memories. I had the cellar dwellers. Diane was one of them. But when we were in the old town hall before it was renovated, I had a picture of the town manager's daughter in my office, not knowing it. My daughter was in the picture as a second grader, and his daughter was there teaching her Spanish. And he walked in my office and goes, "What are you doing with the picture of my daughter in your office?" I said, "What are you talking about? That's my daughter." It just happened to be his daughter was the teacher. And then, Michael, you've been in my office before you arrived. What happened was you and I were at the same event at the State House. John Petrum was our town manager back then. And you brought it up to my mind just now when you mentioned WinWham. When we received WinWham, that was through a community grant, and you were receiving a community grant for Lowell. And we were also looking at a shared fire department back then. So John Petrum was there, and you were in the picture with me as well when we took a group picture before you even arrived. So again, it's just so interesting how it's like a crystal ball. So I took the pictures down, so I don't know who will be there in the future, but it's just ironic how that occurred with two different town managers.
Well, I remember that now that you mentioned it, Mark, that big group picture that we have.
Yes.
That was great.
Well, I think municipal government is a small world. You keep passing and interacting with people in different ways and different positions. So, Mark, thank you so much for all your work for the town of Ashland.
If I may ask, I put a couple thoughts together. I promise it won't take, I can talk for a long time, but if you can give me a minute to 2 minutes, I can get through it.
Go for it.
Okay, well, and I usually don't take notes. I'm always just ad lib, but again, I just want to thank all the community members, all the community members in Ashland, you, the government leaders, as well as my board members through the years it's an honor that they have allowed me to be the health agent director since, as we said, it's been a while, 38 years in reverse of that as I started in 1983. It's weird how those numbers went the opposite way. And I feel fortunate. I feel fortunate that I've been able to work with my fellows as a team member, because you don't go anywhere unless you're a team member. And you're going to be you're very fortunate to still have some great team members with the Board of Health staff there. So you're in good hands. And again, some of them are part-time, but you're really in good hands with them. And again, I thanked everyone for the well wishes. And again, it's kind of an interesting transition, but I'm getting used to it. Someone just sent me a card that was an employee there for many years and said it takes up to 6 months. I'm going, oh boy, I got a lot ahead of me with that. But again, I'm available as I noted. And again, there's been many public health challenges. We all mentioned them, they were mentioned here and previously. And I really appreciate, one, the talents and support of the Board of Health members, but just as important, in public health, you need your government leaders to be behind you, because without that, it just won't work. And a lot of times we do things that people don't understand. And sometimes it means changing behavior. Who wants to be told they got to wear a mask? I mean, that's just one example of the education that's so involved in public health. If we're not educating our government leaders, we're not going to be going anywhere. So I want to thank the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Select for allowing me to give that information out. I will be thanking other board members personally that I didn't get a chance to thank. The ones that have passed, I plan on writing something for the newspaper, thanking the many, many contributions that they have added, as well as the present ones that are with us today. The highlights were mentioned: the farmers market, the green up. I want to thank our federal, state leaders, the Department of Public Health, Department of Environmental Protection, and the EPA. As we all know, we needed all their efforts through all my years there as it related to Nyanza. And I'm so proud of Ashland to be a leader in solar power and what you have done with green energies. I'm really a big green energy person. So continue on with your sustainability. I think it's great. And I'm almost done. And again, I mentioned that I'm available if ever needed. And last but not least, I had a show. It's been a while since I did it, but it relates to my last statement that when I worked at a hospital through college and high school, and then I volunteered there, and they used to have a poster up. It was at Marlborough Hospital. It said, your health is your number one wealth. And my show was called Public Health is Everybody's Business. And I really sincerely believe that is so important that people remember that your health is your number one wealth. And I was so honored to have you allow me to represent the public's health throughout those years. So thank you all so much.
Mark, thank
That's
you
it.
so much. That is very well said. And I hope you do
you,
enjoy
Mark.
your retirement. And I believe we should try to get you a BOS coin.
Yes.
Oh,
And it looks like Michael has
well, you
something
don't
for
have
you
to.
as well.
So this is not of the stature of a BOS coin,
It's a big coin.
but it is a clock, and Mark, you certainly deserve this. We'll make sure that we get this to you. It's a nice clock with the town of Ashland seal, and just a very small token of our appreciation for all that you've done.
Thank you all so very
Here you
much. I really
Thank you, Mark. And hopefully we'll see you at some MMA conference.
You bet. You can be
Okay,
guaranteed.
take care.
Thank you all. Take care now.
Mark.
Bye.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Bye.
It's always hard when people retire, but especially someone like him, you know, lots of years of service, lots of knowledge.
We've had a number of long-term employees recently retire. I mean, the years of service is quite impressive.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to keep us moving. And I see Tanya is here. We have some appointments to the Ashland Cultural Council. Tanya, you are muted, but you can unmute and take us through these appointments. I don't know if your appointees are here or not.
We're told to be here at 6:40. So
okay.
So one Moala was going to be here in person, and Debbie was not able to make it on such a short notice. So I can speak for.
Well, what we can do is we can, if they're going to be here at 6:40, we can wait a few minutes. So if we could go down to our consent agenda, everybody. We have 2 items to approve the regular session minutes from November 4th, 2020, and then accept the resignation of Dana Wright, who was serving as an associate member of the Historical Commission. If I can get a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Motion to accept as presented.
Okay, I have a acceptance and a so moved. So Steve, I'll take you as the motion, and Joe, you'll be our second.
Sure.
For our minutes. Let's do a roll call vote. Kinsman.
Aye.
Mignani.
Aye.
Mitchell.
Aye.
Scheer.
Aye.
And Greaves, aye. That passes 5-0. We've approved our consent agenda. And I believe, Mike is here. So we have still about 5 minutes before we're expecting members from the Cultural Council. Mike Quinlan is here from Compass. We're going to go to old new business. The first item, use of chapter 149A, CM at risk for the Mindus School Building Project. We are bringing this forward for approval with a change of timing from the town meeting vote from December to January. It was determined that we want to be able to still move some things forward and not wait until after the vote happens. But to do that, we need to have approval from the select board to allow us and approve us using a CM at risk. So that is a construction manager at risk. It was determined that for our construction, that is the best route to go in regards to managing our contract and our construction rather than a general contractor. And rather than, general contractor. Hopefully everyone had the opportunity to look at the information that was in our packets. So just real quick information for people who are watching. So the building committee believes that the project is a budget critical, complicated phase construction of an elementary school and will realize many benefits in using a CM at risk. This project plan calls for a coordinated 2-phase project. The first phase is the construction of a new school on a hillside behind the existing school with wetlands on the other side. The second phase is the establishment of temporary bus circulation and playgrounds while the demolition of the old school occurs, followed by the completion of the new site circulation and athletic fields. So to be able to keep this project on task as well as under budget. It was felt with the input of our project managers that this was the way to go. Any questions? And if you have any more detailed questions, Mike Quinlan is here that he could maybe answer them if I can't or Michael can't. Questions or comments?
Yolanda, does the state building funding, does that, they allow that activity, that action to change? That it's
Yes.
under their purview to do
Well,
so?
it's so you have to pick which route you're going to go.
Yeah.
And it's one or the other. And like I said, based on the information and based on this project, it was determined that for our project, a construction manager at risk was better than just doing a general contractor.
Okay.
And so we have to apply to the Inspector General's office because it's a different procurement method, so it requires an application. So in order to submit that application, we need your approval, which is what we're seeking tonight. But the MSBA allows both general contractors, which is Chapter 149, and CM at risk, which is called Chapter 149A procurement methods.
Now, is there any more responsibility to that specific individual, that title than it would be if it was just a general contractor?
Yes, it's a different procurement and delivery method. Basically, with a typical Chapter 149, you put your project out to bid and you have to take the lowest bidder unless there's all sorts of other complications. But with Chapter 149A, you're actually hiring a builder before the project is ready to go under construction, and they become part of the team and they advise the team on construction logistics, on different detailing in the building, just to make sure that the documents are really put together well, helps avoid some certain complications down the line. But as Yolanda noted, when you have complex projects like this, they become a part of the team. And that's sort of the key benefit of having a CM at risk procurement method. So it's just a different process, one that the state does allow, but they do require that we apply for that, and we have to justify it. So we have a full application that we've developed. Part of that application would include the town having approved the use of that procurement method.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Just one other quick question. I'm sorry, Brandy. Do you still need a site supervisor with respect to that?
Yep.
Okay.
So the CM will have someone on site full time, as will your OPM, us, Compass. We will have a representative. We represent you. So we will have a construction site manager from our office on site full time as well.
Thank you, Michael.
What
Appreciate
this
it.
means, Joe, is that we would not be hiring our own project manager.
Got
If
it.
you remember when we built the high school, we hired a general contractor, but then we hired Bob Hebden as our project manager who managed
Right.
it.
Right.
This would be instead of going that route.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you.
Yep. Brandy?
So based on some of the information that was provided, it seems like this is definitely the route to go, especially one of the bullet points was talking about greater depth of experience with net zero energy schools and geothermal systems. So I think that, you know, given the complexity of the project, I think that this definitely makes sense. My only question is, you know, we had voted a not to exceed budget. I assume that the costs for this position, which is more specialized, would be incorporated into the budget that we already approved, correct?
That's correct. We've been pricing it this way all along. Yes.
Right. Yep.
That's it for me.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. If I can get a motion to approve the use of a construction manager at risk under General Law, Chapter 149A as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Great. Kinsman,
Aye.
Vignani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shearer,
Aye.
and Greaves, aye. Thank you for doing that. We can then keep moving things forward with the Mendez project as we move forward for the vote.
Does the school committee need to vote as well?
No.
This? They don't.
No, it's a select board part of procurement and
Oh,
funding.
You just got it. Okay, got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Mike, thank you for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Paul, I
Mike.
see you here too. Thank you for being here. You can go back to your school committee if it's not done.
Thanks.
Great. It is now 6:41, so that was great. We got through that. And now we're going to go back to our appointments for our Ashland Cultural Council. Tanya, if you want to introduce the two people that you are recommending we appoint, I would appreciate it.
I would love to. We have very exciting new candidates. We have Moala, who today is present in person, and we have Debbie, who's in her absence, I'll speak for her, and they both are awesome candidates. Moala is a dedicated volunteer, has experience working with grants, and overall we hit it off right away. I think, Michael, I owe it to you. You sold it for me at that farmer's market. Now every time I'm recruiting a new person, I'm gonna take them to meet you. And I think we also chatted.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. But I think Moala loves it, and she's very excited to join us. And Debbie is a retired teacher, most recently an assistant school principal of elementary school. We'll need her, I feel, this coming year, and as we still don't know our location, and I know schools are dealing with all kind of interesting short funds and big demands all the time. So this is very exciting. Moala, would you like to
share a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in being on the Cultural Council?
Yes, of course. So I've lived in Ashland for 3 years now. I have 2 kids. My oldest daughter is in Warren. Her name's Ava. She's in 1st grade. And then our youngest son is Mason, and he's at Dream Station full-time. So both my husband and I work in downtown Boston, but love the suburbs area. We just love the community, how close it is, how diverse. And so I really wanted to find a way to integrate and get to know more people within the community. And someone had recommended Ashland Cultural Council. Actually, it was Ashley Place when I saw her at one of the area meetings. And so I met up with Tanya at the farmer's market, in which she and Mike convinced me that this would be a great way to meet people, but also, have more hands-on experience with the town. And so I'm looking forward to that, especially now that we're rounding our grant season.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for stepping up. It's one of those things that, people don't always understand it, but we appreciate you wanting to participate in that way.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm trying to find the terms, because we need to appoint you with specific terms. I'm just scrolling through my deck
3
here.
years.
Right.
It's a 3-year term.
Okay. Great. If I can get a motion to appoint Moala and Debbie to 3-year terms as Cultural Council, expiring, these go by your date, so November 17, 2023.
Long term.
If I can get a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to appoint Moala, Clay Bois, and Debbie Bresnick to terms on the Cultural Council to end, what was that, 2023?
November 17th,
2023.
2023.
I'll second that.
Okay. We just lost Steve.
Oh,
Oh, there he is. Okay. Let's take roll call vote. Kinsman,
Aye.
Mignani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shearer,
Aye.
and Greaves, aye. Thank you, Tanya, for bringing us such wonderful candidates. Moala, thank you for being here, and we congratulate both of you on joining our Cultural Council.
Thank you
I'm
all.
sorry if I mispronounced your last name.
Oh, it's okay. It's very phonetic, Kitayembla, but trust me, my parents
okay.
can't even pronounce it. So
I
don't
think
feel
that's what
bad.
I said.
Sure, we'll go with that, Rob.
Thanks, Moala. And thanks, Tanya.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a good night.
Tanya,
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Nice
Nice
Stay
to
healthy.
see you too.
everybody.
Okay. Our next item, we're a couple of minutes early, is Monica Milko is requesting a BAA grant for captain's practice on behalf of the high school hockey team. Are we expecting her to come and speak, Susan, or not? Yes. Okay. So fortunately in our packets, and we can just start talking before she gets here if you guys want, I did ask Susan to give us our current balances. And as you can see, our marathon donations, we have about 9,500. Our BAA donations, about 14,000. And our selectman gift account, almost 83,000. And I know. So just remind me, our selectman gift account, where are those funds coming from? I know where they used to come from, but I don't know where they're coming from now.
Who are you asking?
Either
Me?
Susan or Michael, either one.
Susan, you got this.
I do. That money is a result of stays at the Warren Conference Center.
Okay. Okay. I thought there was something related there. And of course, BAA donation, that is money from the BAA authority to the town of Ashland that is then not used for public safety measures and things like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then marathon donation.
Sorry.
That's okay.
One thing I wanted to note is that we may have a request to get some of the donations that were raised by the runners given back. I've already had a couple things come up and people are on the fence as to whether or not they're going to ask us to refund those monies.
So for runners who donated already?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have an idea how much that money will be?
Yeah.
I think it's small. I've only had 2 people that have mentioned it. When I responded back to them that if the marathon happens in the fall, they would just be required to fill from wherever they're at now to what the goal is. They have not gotten back to me saying, okay, then I will run or I want the money back. They haven't said anything. So I'm hoping that they've settled and that they're not going to want the money back, but it's not going to be damaging to the budget because we would then just get another runner to fill that seat and put the money back in.
Okay.
I guess my question, maybe while we're waiting, is what's the latest? I don't know if Michael, what's the latest with ice hockey and COVID-19? There were some issues. Has it been resolved? Are there any issues with supporting this kind of activity, or what are thoughts on that?
Well, I think when I talk about globally, I'm talking about, if you look at the whole universe of ice hockey activities, some of the issues that have, kind of emerged over the last couple of months, I guess you could say, there have been measures put in place, I think, to help start curb some of the spread of the virus through those activities. I don't think it's put any kind of stop to it. We obviously have, like at the Warren Conference Center, our own, ice issues related to hockey, but I think that's separate than what this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see that Monica did join us.
They did separate interstate competition.
Right. So teams from out of state cannot come to play in tournaments in Massachusetts and vice versa.
And vice versa as well.
Right.
Right.
Hi, Monica. Welcome to our meeting.
Hi, Yolanda. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So you are looking for money to help pay for the captain's practices. We were having some discussion about the funding before you came on. I guess one of our big questions, and I know for me it was a concern as well, in regards to the safety of the athletes, and are they going to be playing, this season?
So both my sons play club hockey.
Mhm.
And those teams have resumed playing after the 2-week shutdown in Massachusetts. The play is only allowed in the state of Massachusetts. They are not allowed to leave the state to play in any tournaments or any teams outside of Massachusetts. I have not heard anything yet from the MIAA in terms of a high school hockey season. For all intents and purposes, it looks like there will be a season, but there will be no state tournament in the February-March timeframe. So the expectation is that there would be some games, and I don't know if they'll reshuffle the districts or the teams that we play, but I still have not heard anything. The one thing I have heard is that they were going to push the season start back so that it wouldn't start until December 14th or 15th. I know the high school is opening up the winter registration process so that boys and girls who are interested in playing winter sports, which includes ice hockey for both, is open for registration. They're not taking money right now, but they have opened that registration. So, everyone is wearing masks. The rule is, as soon as you enter a rink, you need to have a mask on at all times. I know for the club teams, they're wearing masks at all times. For the captain's practices that have already occurred, they're wearing masks at all times. There's no locker rooms. There's socially distanced spaces on the bench. So they're trying to do all of the right things. They're limiting the number of spectators allowed in the rink. So safety is obviously a concern, and we're working to reinforce the rules that have been dictated.
Okay.
Thank you. Monica, this is a captain's practice. Will there be any adults there? I mean, any parents or adults? So is it just up to the captains to enforce the guidelines?
Yes. So captain's practices have never had adult supervision, if you will. It's purposeful. It's been like that forever. I mean, this isn't a new thing just this year. I have spoken with my son, who is the captain, that he needs to follow the rules that have been laid down by Loring Arena. So I met with the rink manager. He went through all the rules with me, and I've had that discussion with my son. And I'm doing everything I can through communications with the parents who have signed up for the captain's practices to ensure that their children are showing up and wearing the mask the time that they're in the locker room or in the rink, I mean. But yeah, there's no adult supervision. The whole point of the captain's practices is for the boys to get out on the ice together,
Sure.
to get their skating legs back, and prep for the tryouts that will be in December.
Okay. And I imagine the rink must have somebody running the rink at
Yeah.
that point as well. But
Yeah, the rink manager is there. When I went in the other day before the captain's practices started, there was another gentleman there as well. And there's certainly always someone there running the Zamboni in between sheet rentals. So there's absolutely adults in the building.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Joe, you had raised your hand, and then Brandy.
Oh, no, Brandy, go ahead. Ladies first.
Thanks, Joe. So the dates that you had initially listed on your email to Susan was really, throughout November. Is Loring Arena working with you on dates for December?
So traditionally, there's only been 4 captain's practices. They've always happened in November. And to secure those dates, I had to book them back in September. So I have 4 dates in November. I had to change one of them because the first date fell within the 2-week shutdown. So I needed to move that date, but there will just be the 4 practices.
So did the practices that were scheduled for like the 11th and
Yep.
the one that's for the 19th, did that occur?
The 11th happened.
Okay.
The date that was
17th.
scheduled for 11/6 was moved to 11/17, and that one happened.
Okay.
The third one is scheduled for tomorrow, the 19th.
Okay.
Okay, and then the fourth one on 11/25.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Correct.
Anything else, Brandy?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Joe?
Thank you. That was one of my questions, Brandy, and I appreciate you asking that. But I also want to know, Monica, and I appreciate all your efforts because I'd like to see the kids active and do the things they need to do. Have you talked to any of the other fundraising groups within the school where this is a school function? I know captain practices, though they're part of the team, these are above and beyond a regular practice. And I would assume that's correct, right?
That is correct. This is not an activity that's funded through the school or through the sports programs. It is on the backs of the parents. And ice rental is very expensive. So there's just not money in anyone's budget to allow for this. So each year, the senior captain mom is responsible for helping to coordinate these captain's practices so that the kids can go into tryouts with some level of confidence. That they know the other boys who are trying out, that they've had an opportunity. If they haven't been on skates since last season, this is an opportunity for them to get out on the ice prior to those tryouts. So
Thank you, Monica. I appreciate that. How many kids are we looking at? How many hockey players?
So I have about 20 to 22 kids who all expressed interest in the captain's practices. They range from freshmen to sophomore to juniors to seniors. So we've got a really great mix of kids across all 4 years who are coming to the captain's practices. I don't know if all of the boys will try out for hockey. I know it's very intimidating typically for freshmen. It's the first year that they would be skating with kids who are 2 to 3 years older than themselves. Usually you only skate with your birth year, but we've got a really good turnout this year.
That's very nice. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it.
Steve, any questions?
Not really. I do have just, I guess, a comment about, how we have worked through these requests in the past. And, when Rob and I meet as a subcommittee to review the BAA grants, I mean, we've always been supportive universally to all of our sports programs. But we've been pretty consistent with the amount of money that we have funded for each of the programs to be fair and equitable to everybody across all of the youth sports and all the sports programs. And we've also, as a board, I think, taken the approach that, our intent or our goal wasn't to fully fund, but to contribute. And so I just wanted to make those comments. I think, Rob, you would agree, I think what we've done is tried to maintain like a $500 grant to support the program and make it consistent across the board. And, when I look at let's assume there's 20 or 22 kids that are participating, that's like $10 a kid to participate in the captain's process. If we fund half of that, that seems to be, a pretty reasonable contribution.
Yeah, and I would agree. And traditionally, we have helped out with captain's practices, as I recall. That's a pretty standard request.
Yeah, we've done this, for years. You and I, Rob, have been doing the grant program, or the recommendation.
So so $500 sounds reasonable to me, but yeah.
I know that you have been very generous to the boys hockey team in the past. I don't know what amount you've given the last few years each year. I just know that having the instructions passed down to me from prior moms, that you guys have been very generous, and honestly, anything that you can contribute towards funding the captain's practices is appreciated. This year, especially where everything is so tight with everything getting canceled and fundraising, it's been a challenge. So I definitely appreciate any consideration for helping out the program.
And Monica, thank you for your efforts on behalf of youth sports.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
it's my pleasure. I'm trying really, really hard. I have a senior and I have a sophomore who both play hockey, and it's been incredibly challenging for them as teenagers. Almost everything has been taken away or shut down or changed, and it's true for all of us. We're all experiencing it, but I think the teenage group in particular is struggling, and to the degree that there can be some normalcy, that they can do something, even if it's different from prior years, is really my main goal.
And that's
Monica, but I had one question for you. You were saying, so are the young women who are trying out for their team, are they eligible to come to these captain's practices as well, or is it just to the boys who are going to be trying out for the Ashland High School team?
So this is specific to the boys hockey team. I don't know if the girls and boys typically get together on the same sheet of ice at the same time. And I know for Ashland High, for the girls, there aren't a lot of numbers. So they wind up combining with, I believe it's
Medway. Yeah,
Medway.
they combine with another team. I was just wondering.
And we've supported them as well. So they should come forward as well if they're.
I mean, you're right, Steve. Usually, we get all these requests at once, but because we put our program basically on hold, we had asked people, that needed something to come and ask. And, to Monica's point, if we can help make this a little bit more normal for these kids, I think we should. So I've heard an amount of 500. Is there another amount that people would like to recommend, or?
Well, I move that we support the captain's practices for the amount of $500. And, I just want to comment, Monica, thank you for all your work. We all appreciate, the challenges for the kids and for the parents as well. So, having, young children like that and trying to manage all of that is, we appreciate the challenge.
Thank you very much. I am very grateful for any support from the town.
Okay. I have a motion for 500. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second that.
Great. I have a motion and a second. Kinsman,
Aye.
Mignani,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shear,
Aye.
and Greaves. Aye. Monica, just work with Susan for the $500. Good luck. Continue doing what you're doing as a parent of an athlete, or any parent who has kids who want to do stuff. It's not easy. So thank you for doing it, and you'll have experience in 2 years should your sophomore become a captain.
Yes, very, very true. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and tell the boys good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Moving on, back to old and new business. Our next item is to review, vote, and to close and post the December 8th, 2020 special town meeting warrant. As we get moving into that, I noticed that Medway had a town meeting, and I saw some pictures. They probably had about 100 people in attendance. They did do it in their auditorium. They were well spaced. So I know, we had conversations or had tried to do something a little bit different with town meeting. But I know we're at this point going to do it inside. I just hope we can look at, having areas for people to spread out and not just have it in one room in the high school.
I see, Madam Chair, that we have a discussion towards the end. I don't know, is that relevant to this town meeting or the other one or both?
It would be relevant to both.
Yep.
So maybe we should do that now, or as part of this, or?
We could certainly do that. I mean, from my perspective, I'm okay with that if the chair is.
Oh, in regards to town meeting logistics, we're gonna do that. Let's go through the warrant for the December 8th meeting and then talk about, I would say, the logistics for the two separate town meetings, because I think they're going to be, slightly different.
Yeah. A little.
Yeah.
I guess part of my, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, let's go through it. Because one of the things, my concern is I'm trying to judge how safe we can make this particular town meeting. And that would, I think, have some effect on what I'm thinking about these different warrant articles that have been proposed, so.
In regards to whether or not you want to bring them forward now, or?
Yeah, I'm thinking about, what's really routine, what's going to go quick, what's complicated. I think we're talking about adding another one to this, right? That could be complicated. So I just want to, we should have in mind, what do we really need to do at this town meeting, I think. So anyway.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Let's go through these articles. I think Michael and Jen and their staff have done a good job of, bringing things forward that are time sensitive. But Michael and Jen, take it away, please.
So Jen, I'll start it off. I'll use the one that I sent to the board the other day. And I know you've had a couple of some modifications, and we need to talk about the insertion of another article tonight as well. So I'm going to start with the free cash transfer and the FY21 budget adjustments. So Article 1, that's a standard article that we do every year. We transfer funding from our free cash, which is yet to be certified, to different accounts based on our financial policies. And then Article number 2 is adjusting the 2021 budget. If you remember, when we did the budget, when we established the budget for FY21, we anticipated a reduction in state aid and a reduction in local receipts. We were conservative and hoping that things would be better financially as things went on. So over the summer, the legislature and the governor came to an agreement on state aid, where they level funded Chapter 70 and also unrestricted government aid or unrestricted local aid. We also did a little bit better in our new growth numbers than we had anticipated. Since we had ramped down building and development so much through the purchase of properties, we anticipated a serious drop in new growth. What we didn't anticipate was a lot of people doing a lot of projects on their homes, which seems to be happening a bit nowadays. So did a little bit better there. I'm talking about these two together just because, so we now have an excess of funding over and above what we had anticipated when we established the budget. And it's about $1.4 million between the $1 million in state aid and then also the $400,000 in the new growth. If you recall, we also took out $1.4 million from our stabilization fund to help balance the budget. We did $1 million worth of cuts, and then we took out $1.4 million of stabilization fund to put forward the FY21 budget. If you look specifically at our financial policies, what we would do is we would actually take that additional revenue and we would actually split it 70-30 with the school department. And then we would split up our free cash in accordance to our financial policies. So I did talk about this with FinCom the other night. We've never been in a situation where we have withdrawn funds from our stabilization fund to help balance a budget. So we're talking about how this article and these motions, when we get the numbers, again, we actually still have to get the free cash number certified from the state, what that looks like. I think our free cash could be close to 2 million, simply because we shut off spending and shifted a lot of our spending onto COVID funds through the CARES Act. So that resulted in a lot of turnbacks. But in any case, if we ended up splitting revenue up 70-30, the school department would be seeing, roughly $1 million increase. The municipal departments would see roughly a $400,000 increase. And then if we did see a $2 million free cash number, according to our financial policies, we would put 1.4 million back into the general stabilization fund, or the rainy day fund, so we would make that whole. The problem is that we've also increased spending at the same time, which essentially is buttressed by one-time funds. So Jim and I are going to talk about this and just kind of wrap our heads around it. We're kind of, I don't want to say we're flying blind right now, but we certainly have needs that need to be met and that expenditures could be used for. And without the free cash number, it's really hard to tell. So that's what's going on with that, with those two articles.
Okay, Madam Chair, could I ask?
Go ahead.
Ask Mike a question. Mike, how much, we talk about new monies coming in, that doesn't affect the CARES monies that have been received by the town, right?
No, it doesn't. In fact,
because I'm kind of surprised that it doesn't affect it, to be honest with you, because that's would be considered new monies, no?
Well, where we're seeing that, Joe, is in the free cash number. So when we shut off spending in the general fund when COVID hit, right, and shifted a lot of that money towards the CARES Act funds, the things that we would be drawing down from the general fund department or the general fund now got shifted over to CARES Act funds. That resulted in a higher free cash balance because money from the general fund that wasn't expended at the end of the year reverted to free cash. So that's where we're seeing that. On the flip side of the coin, we shifted a lot of expenditures towards one-time revenue, which is again, COVID, the CARES Act funds. And so we want to make sure that we can support those expenditures in the future.
But are those expenditures things that we brought into place because of COVID, and the expectation might be that once COVID goes away and the CARE Act funds goes away, some of those expenditures would go away?
Some of them would. Some of the money that we used the CARES Act for was, I guess you could say, more infrastructure type investment as well.
But infrastructure then that would not be continuing at a continuing expense, or something that we, right?
Some of them would be and some of them wouldn't be. And that's one of the things that Jim and I want to talk about tomorrow is what exactly does that look like? We're probably not going to make a huge investment in Chromebooks the way we did earlier this year, right? And that's kind of what I'm talking about in terms of infrastructure. You know,
okay.
Really, you know, I'm not talking about like laying pipes or anything like that, but, you know, some of the tangible things. At the same time, you know, the school department had to make some reductions in their operating costs related to personnel to help meet their agreement under the financial policies and what they had to reduce to get a balanced budget. So I'm sure they're looking at the potential of restoring some of those cuts. I think I've talked to the board about some of our challenges just with the facilities maintenance and, you know, filling a couple of the vacancies that we have currently.
But are they vacant because we had to remove those because of budget or because of COVID related items, and that's why we lost staff?
For the school department, I can't speak explicitly about or really intelligently about what that breakdown is. For us, it's been because of retirements and it's been because of departures.
Okay.
So question here.
Yep.
I'm assuming we have, Michael, you mentioned you and Jen are going to sit and kind of wrap your heads around this, and at some point you're going to come back to us with the math. And I'm anticipating we have a meeting on December the 2nd prior to town meeting, correct?
Correct.
And so at that point, you'd anticipate we'd be able to go through the math and get an understanding of the implications of free cash and the implications of you know, the budget, the state funding and so on?
Absolutely. I can't promise free cash would be certified at that point. We certainly don't want to go back to the days where we get the free cash number the day of town meeting, remember that. But I think December 2nd is certainly a reasonable time frame.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Michael regarding the budget adjustments?
Yeah, I just want to, so Michael, you do expect to have free cash certified by the time we go to town meeting, right? Is it a requirement? I think it is, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it's a requirement for us to appropriate it. Yes, it would need to be certified.
So we would need it, or there's no point to at least these articles or having it, right? So.
At least the free cash article, correct?
Yeah. Okay. And you're pretty confident. Is it delayed more than usual this year? I guess it sounds like it is.
Yeah, I think COVID's just thrown everything off. So,
okay.
Yes, it is.
And
delayed.
is it delayed because we've sent it to the state and we haven't heard back yet, or it's delayed because of, what we had to do from an accounting perspective to get that free cash pulled together?
I mean, it's been submitted, so we're waiting on the state to certify it. In terms of the frame, I can't tell you exactly how long they've had it, but I will say that they've been in contact with Brittany on a pretty regular basis, so they know the urgency.
Okay.
We're trying to schedule out, based on that town meeting date of December 8th, we're trying to schedule out when the tax bills, when we could start the process of, incorporating that as part of the Munis system, our accounting system, to make sure that we get the tax bills out on time. So, yeah.
Okay.
So question, I just want to clarify, just because I just want to make sure I have this right. So the 1.4 million that we're expecting to be over does not include the free cash, correct? No. So the 1 million that would go to the school and then the 400,000 that would go back to municipal is based on that 1.4 million. And then depending on what the free cash is, we basically go back and refund the stabilization fund, but there might be extra at the end of that as well. What would happen with that?
So our policies split it up between the rainy day fund, the OPEB trust, the capital one-time funds, and then if necessary, the special education stabilization fund. So the way our financial policies are set up right now is that if it's $2 million, 1.4 million would go to the rainy day fund, 300,000 would go to the OPEB trust fund, and then 300,000 would go towards capital.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to make sure I had the numbers right.
Yeah, it's
Ish.
a lot of, you start adding zeros to things, it gets a little nerve-wracking too. So,
Joe, you had another question?
Well, it's a matter of procedure when it comes to the town meeting, and we need to have, those funds certified by the 8th. What if, and this is a big if, what if we don't get that certification by the 8th? Do we have to put everything on hold?
No, we would just wait until the spring to make those transfers. It's not ideal by any means. The transfers into
let's hope we don't have to deal with that, Joe.
No, I understand. I wanted to make sure that people understood that. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Optimistic, Joe.
I am optimistic.
Yeah,
I am.
We'll be good.
Just
moving on with the other items, property tax exemption.
Yeah, the property tax exemption, again, we've budgeted for an additional $100 increase this year over and above last year, so that will bring it up to a little over $800. The Board of Assessors, I believe the percentage is going to be 11.5%, the exemption amount. I'll have to make sure that that's the actual number, and it has been voted on and approved by the Board of Assessors. But in terms of a dollar figure, that's what we're hoping for.
Okay.
And Michael, just in terms of timing, we need to do it at this town meeting because of when it would affect the taxes to be calculated. Is that as opposed to waiting until May or?
Correct. Exactly. This is one that we need to get before the tax bills go out. The third and fourth quarter tax bills are what they call actual tax bills.
And I suppose that same kind of schedule goes for the next two articles as well. Is that?
Yeah, there might be. I think these two articles, you can actually have a look back period going back to the beginning of the fiscal year. But these two articles, yes, are similar in the sense that they provide tax relief. One for surviving parents and guardians of, members of our military. And then the other is a reduction in the property tax obligation for volunteer services. So those are the two, and they're part of what's called the BRAVE Act. That was
So, and I think these are good measures. I guess I heard about them. We heard about them first time at the last meeting, and I'm just wondering, is this something we could put off until the Springtown meeting where conditions are presumably going to be safer, or we can take more time with the articles?
We did defer this one from the spring, Rob.
Oh, we did. I'd forgotten that. So.
Yeah.
I would say that if anything, it would be good to bring these forward and have them voted on to see if they could help some of our veterans moving forward for, Q3 and Q4 of 2021.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I'm just, timings, I'm just questioning the timing if we need to do it now. But, if there's
it's whether we want the impact to be in 2021 or 2022.
Well, it sounds like what Rob is looking to achieve is reducing the warrant.
No, I understand.
That's what Rob is speaking about.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's any easy or obvious answers here. It's just, okay.
Okay. So moving on is one that you do not see in your warrant right now. Jen sent this warrant article to you a little bit earlier today. If you will give me one moment, I will bring it up. So, and I will just kind of preface it by saying, I think as everybody knows, especially on the board, but I think people who are watching, or if people are watching, we have been moving forward with the public safety building and engineering it and planning it, understanding that we have a gift agreement with the Howard Fafford for a gift of property at 14 to 16 East Union Street. The board entered into that agreement in 2018 over the summer. It outlined a number of steps that we needed to take to effectuate that gift. We have taken those steps. Unfortunately, as of today, we had not received the deed for the property, which is like the last part, but also like the part that conveys ownership to the property to us. So unfortunately, we've been put in a position where we are going to be looking to take the property, take the gift parcel and some additional land that abuts that parcel by eminent domain. And so that would be on this December 8th town meeting warrant. It's certainly an unfortunate situation. Right now, in addition to the gift parcel, since we are kind of at a place where we need to take this step, we look at what the best situation for the previous point in time. We think in addition to the gift parcel, we should take the abutting property that was still going to be the Fafford, or still owned by Fafford. So it's a total of a little over 12 acres. And so to pay for this, we would be looking at a combination of funds from our capital stabilization fund and some also special revenue accounts that the board has access to that have been dedicated to public safety. So unfortunately, like I said, I'm sure the board would want to maybe make some comments about this, maybe not, but this is not something that we're doing lightly, but unfortunately it's something that we have to do.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of discussion about this, and as people have questions, we can certainly address those. I don't know if Steve or Joe, as public safety building people who've been much more involved in this, you'd like to add anything at this point?
I mean, I would just comment at this point that, certainly, Michael, agree with his comment about, unfortunately, we need to take this step. I think the town has acted in good faith from day one in terms of working with the Fafford companies to work out the gift of land agreement. And unfortunately, here we are. The town is committed a tremendous amount of funding to proceed with this project. The need of the project continues to be more and more important in my mind. So I think, unfortunately, we've been put in this position of having to go this route. And I think it's also important to make note that eminent domain is not something that we take lightly by any means. From our perspective, you need to have a municipal purpose for taking the property. And in this case here, obviously the public safety building, but there's other potential municipal benefits that we'll be discussing over the next series of days leading up to town meeting as well. So, Joe, from your perspective?
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I have to concur with what you just said, and along with what Michael said. It's been a very aspirating process, far more than I ever expected it to be. We were told one thing, we do what we need to do, and then there's another hurdle that's provided, given to us to jump over. And this has been the process now for over a year and a half. We think we have everything done that we need to do, and yet there's still additional work that is required by the town to get this land. So to keep it clean, to do everything that we would like to do, especially with the gifted property, we think that this is the best route to take. And like Steve said and Michael said, that as the days pass by, we will be providing additional information for everybody to understand and absorb, and questions that they'll have, the answers to their questions will be provided. We're not trying to do anything, behind the scenes or behind anyone's back. We're keeping everything out front, and that's the way we do business. And I just wish it was a lot cleaner when we were given this opportunity to take the land. And unfortunately, there's been one catastrophe after another, and one more, oh, you need to do this, oh, you need to do that request. So we were put in a situation that needed to get done, and I believe this is the right action to take.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
Yep.
The next two articles are related to the Valentine property. So the first one is a zoning bylaw change, which actually creates a Valentine property overlay district. The reason this is being proposed is that for any entity that owns that property, whether it's the town of Ashland or another entity, if they wanted to do anything other than those uses authorized under residential zoning, they wouldn't be able to do it unless there's this overlay in place. So this overlay allows for commercial uses. It outlines a couple of different examples, but also gives the planning board the ability to, if a proposal comes before them that is really in the spirit of this bylaw and this zoning change, gives them the ability to grant permission through a special permit. And I think that, a lot of the uses that have been talked about were really things that we have heard through when we had the forum to talk about the properties and what we were going to do with them. Also discussions amongst the Valentine committee, and I think reflect a lot of the uses that I think many of you aspired to see it as part of that property as well. So that's the zoning bylaw.
Now, Michael, when we presented this information at our last select board meeting, it was, we were questioned as to whether or not you can create an overlay district for one particular property. And can you just tell us what you heard from Attorney Mead regarding that?
Yes, we can, because I actually had that exact same concern as well, that it was, I think the term that I was using was spot zoning. I was like, isn't this spot zoning? And we've been assured by Attorney Mead that that's not the case.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. I'll move on to the next one, which is the authorization to sell or enter into a lease agreement for the Valentine property for adaptive reuse. I think there's been a lot of chatter about this in the background, which is certainly fine. I think conversations are great. I think it's better to have conversations in the open, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows really what this is. I think there's been a lot of focus on the sale of the property. Really what the Valentine Committee has been looking at doing is they decided to issue this request for proposals to see what possibilities exist out there. I don't know if we're going to get any proposals. They're due on Tuesday. We're looking forward to reviewing them if we get any. But they could be for the sale of the property. They could be for the lease of the property. There's a couple of concerns that have been raised, which, I mean, we share. The way those concerns have been presented is like we don't share them, which is completely inaccurate.
Or that we haven't thought about them already?
We haven't thought about them, which is disingenuous. It's a little bit more than inaccurate. But you know, as you see in the language here, there's several different restrictions that we've put in place, or that we say should be in place. Development deed restriction, a historic preservation restriction, a conservation restriction. The big fear, I think, from everybody is that we don't want to see happen there what we actually bought the property to keep from happening, which is a large, dense development, or any kind of dense residential development at all. At the same time, I think we're looking somewhat more aspirationally about what it could be. And it's an expensive property to redevelop. It's an expensive property to maintain. And I think it's important for the town to see just what is out there, if anything, in terms of options. So this would authorize a successful town meeting vote would authorize the select board to negotiate and execute any documents related to a sale or lease agreement for this property.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions about this? Okay. All right, I'll move on.
Yep.
So the next one would be a land taking. This is actually what we would call a friendly taking, and it's accepting an easement at Independence Lane to install that booster pump station that we've been talking about.
You skipped the Chestnut Street.
Oh, I think we skipped it last time too. Maybe it's a Freudian slip. That.
So this is the house at 433 Chestnut Street and the property that we need to swap with Framingham State.
Exactly. What we're looking at doing here is swapping lot lines to make it a little bit more palatable for everyone, including the person who is going to renovate Framingham State. This also eliminates the easement that is on the Hull House property that allows people to access the barn that is owned by Framingham State as well. Unfortunately, we tried to find a way to where we didn't have to bother anybody with this because it is a simple swap. There's nobody's gaining or losing anything in this transaction, but this is what we need to do.
This also cleans up for the house once it's cleaned up and rebuilt, that they won't be having the traffic of Framingham State coming directly down their driveway, correct?
That's the that eliminates that easement.
Okay, great.
So just a comment on this, Michael. The process by which we're undergoing at 433 Chestnut Street is similar to what we're proposing to do at the Valentine as well. Is that in a kind of a broad general sense, where we have a third party that's coming in and doing a renovation or a reuse of the property, Is that a fair?
Well, the mechanics of it, the thing that's different is that you've already done this for 433 Chestnut
We've
Street.
already done it, but we've gone through a similar process
Exactly.
here that we're looking to do for the Valentine property as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Good point.
All right, so now I will move on to the booster pump station. So this is something that I've tried to keep you apprised of. I've been working really hard with Fish, the neighborhood, to try to come to some agreement on a booster pump and where to locate it. The best place to locate it was actually on town or on homeowners association land. Unfortunately, the homeowners association does not technically exist anymore. So we would be looking at doing what we'll call a friendly taking. I've been dealing with the neighborhood. A couple of meetings that I've had, they seem very much supportive. I wouldn't say it's unanimous. I believe the abutter to where this booster pump would be has some concerns related to it, but overall the neighborhood is supportive. At least that's what has been relayed to me, and they are actually going to get me a petition in support of this article, hopefully by the end of the week. That's what their aim is.
So the neighborhood itself is supportive of this because they understand that by allowing this to happen, the booster pump will get installed that will benefit them directly in regards to their water pressure, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you recall, Fish is actually going to be paying for this booster pump.
Correct.
So they are going to pay for it. They will be constructing it, and then they will donate it to the town, gift it to the town. So it will be the town's pump station, but we do not have to incur the cost of building it, which would be, the way it's looking now, over $1 million. So I think things are working out, well. I will say, as part of the discussions here, Fish is also going to schedule their occupancy of the ledges, meaning that instead of bringing like 30, 40, 50 people in at once, they're going to bring them in like 10, 15 at a time or per month, just so we can get a handle on the water pressure and make sure that that doesn't become an issue while the booster pump is being constructed. So, and basically holding the neighborhood harmless that way as well.
Hadn't we talked about holding off on occupancy permits until the booster pump was actually in place? Or do we not feel like we can do that?
It's one occupancy permit for a multifamily.
Okay.
No, we cannot.
Okay.
How soon would the, assuming this passes town meeting, how soon would the booster pump be installed?
Well, they've gone ahead and been given the permission to order it. Once it gets here, it should take 2 months. I think what the concern is what the lead time is going to be. Is it going to be 3 months? Is it going to be 4 months? We do anticipate it being online by the summer. So that's helpful. The other thing that we're doing, Yolanda, so with the scheduled occupancy, so in addition to that and concurrent with that, we're going to keep our pumps on, which should still provide the pressure needed through the winter to get this, to make sure that the Independence Lane neighborhood doesn't lose pressure as well.
Okay. Okay, good.
All right. The next one is the stormwater fee lien. I think everybody's a little, I'll just start with what it is. This gives the town the ability to place any unpaid stormwater charges after a certain point as a lien on the person's property and on a homeowner's taxes. This has been put forward by the Stormwater Advisory Committee, and this has got a number of complexities and issues with it. Just, I think from my perspective, administratively, I think certainly it's something that we could work out, but in any way, that is what is on. So any thoughts or discussions about that?
Has there been any are there people that really don't pay the stormwater fee? Is that enough of an issue that there needs to be a lien put in place?
Well, enough. So when you say enough people who haven't paid, that's kind of subjective.
I
right?
get it. Absolutely. Yep.
I'm trying to get a full handle on how many of those people there are that aren't in some level of dispute. So Yolanda and I have had conversation. Actually, I think the board has been CC'd on the initial communication through a land trust who has a number of parcels, and of course they're like very small, but they're each assessed the same amount. Same thing with the Boy Scout property. So, looking aside from those, it would be interesting to see what those numbers are. And then how do you figure that out? Because it's on the water and sewer fee as well. So what do they pay their water and sewer fee, but then just shortchange the stormwater fee?
Does this conform with other language that we have with either water, sewer, trash? Is this kind of boilerplate language here?
It is. And the town, if you remember, actually a couple years ago, adopted language that allowed us to place any kind of charges, municipal charges, onto a property owner's taxes. This was mainly in response to developers who, or a certain developer, let's be frank, who chose not to pay a certain charge, and we wanted to make sure that we had the ability to recover those funds when the time came. But this needs to be specified, so it can't fall under that bigger issue.
Oh, Michael, but this is really an enforcement mechanism, right? We're not going to get into, because it's really relatively complex subject matter. I don't expect we're going to get into how we are determining these stormwater fees, are we?
I hope not. I think that all depends on what the moderator would think would be in bounds. Yeah. And just from past practice, I would think the moderator would feel that would be outside the scope of the article.
Yeah. So if we're just talking about having teeth for our existing enforcement, I think that's one thing. If I think we do need to look at these stormwater fees at some point and how they're calculated and take on these kind of issues, but I don't think this would be the place for it, hopefully. And if it is, then we should probably put it off to another time. But
well, I think this is exactly the kind of thing that a town meeting discussion, as Michael said, it should be specific to the stormwater lien, not the stormwater fees, and how those are calculated. It's specific to the lien, and this is where town meeting can then decide yes or no if they want to support this or not. And my suggestion, and as we get into talking about town meeting logistics, is if they want to do any kind of presentation, I think all those presentations need to be up on the website and available well before town meeting, so that people are not seeing these presentations the night of. They've seen them before, and then they're shown again maybe at town meeting. But I would ask that the Stormwater Advisory Committee do create a presentation that we can get up beforehand to let people know why they're putting this forward.
Do we know if other towns that have similar stormwater fees and the same similar structure, are there any others that have a similar lien?
I believe there are, Brandy, but I don't know which ones there are or what kind of language there is. But I'm sure the Stormwater Advisory Committee.
Yeah, they seem to be pretty thorough about that.
I do want to ask the board one thing. So you're actually closing and posting the warrant tonight. I think it's important for everybody to know that just because you're closing and posting warrant articles does not necessarily mean that you are, as a board or maybe even individually, in favor of or opposed against different ones. You're right. The action that you're taking tonight is saying, okay, this is worth a town meeting discussion and vote and putting it forward as well.
Exactly.
So.
Well, I would think, Michael, that the warrant articles that we actually support, we'd probably be supportive of.
That's true. You mean sponsor.
Sponsor.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, true. Okay. So moving on. Oh, we get to the CPC articles. Don't tell Rob about this one.
All right, this one I think we should defer to the spring.
Well, let's think
Haven't we
about
already
it.
deferred this one from last spring?
Yeah, it is. It has been kicking around a while, I think.
It has.
And I'm sure it would interfere with construction and things like that.
It would. This is very timely. So this is a request for $120,000 in community preservation CPA funds to construct the Trolley Brook Trail. Jen, 120,000 is only part of what we expect the construction costs to be. The rest is being made up through other funds. And Jen, can you go through those? Because I know you've really kind of been working to cobble those together.
Sure. So in addition to this funding, we also received a Mass Trails grant of $50,000. And so a portion of that would be for the design. And we worked with our grant manager to allow us to then move, because our design costs came in a little bit less expensive than we initially had thought. So to move the remaining money into construction. And so we're able to sort of leverage that grant fund. And then also we were able to allocate capital funds. So the total project is estimated to be somewhere between I believe $350,000 to $400,000 for the full construction. And so we'll be able to, with these three sources of money, be able to get that done, and hopefully early summer, I think, is what we're hoping for.
And will this be a paved trail or crushed stone?
So they're still working through some of those design decisions at the committee level, and they're working with BMC. I think the estimate has it as some level of pavement, just because that would be more expensive. So at least.
Okay. And I would ask that for this, there be some kind of map for people to see on the lot where this trail goes. Cause I've been, looking at different things and I'm like, I haven't had the opportunity to walk it yet. So I'm not quite sure where it is. That's all. And I think a lot of people haven't walked it. So it would be good if there was a map that actually showed where it started and where it ended on Memorial Drive.
Now, my understanding is that there's two people, Marty and Valerie from the Upper Charles Trail, that are prepping to do this. Are you working with them, Jen, or what's the thinking in terms of a joint presentation or a quick presentation, I guess I would say? Your presentation just now was very nice and quick. I liked it, but so I don't know. Are you working with them on this, or how's that?
I have heard from Marty. So I know Marty's been doing the presentation with Joel to CPC. CPC also asked for a map or a rendering so that we could show it at town meeting. I can certainly touch base with them on what they're expecting for presentation, because I think Adam is going to really, I mean, I might be incorrect, but I think Adam's going to really limit.
Yes, and I think that's.
So, he tends to keep a tight ship anyway, but I think now he'll be even more. So we can certainly touch base with them.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I do have a quick question, and I'm sorry, I was waiting for Rob to stop. Does this affect the stormwater assessment if we pave this particular path, or if we keep it gravel? Because I know that that was an issue. Then anytime you pave something, it affects your stormwater ratio. So would it be better just to keep it gravel and not pave it?
Right.
Don't all answer at once. So, Joe, I don't think it would matter in terms of the stormwater fee, whether it's paved or not. I think the design of it and what material you use is, I think there's going to be a lot of factors that go into that, including what the committee would like, what Conservation Commission would actually approve. I think there are a lot of factors, but it shouldn't affect the stormwater fee.
Right, and I think, that goes back to how we're doing our stormwater fees. Right now, I don't think there's a lot of calculations for permeable versus impermeable, right? So.
Only on commercial property, I believe. Okay.
Last one?
Well, next to last one, Yolanda.
Oh, right, sorry.
Good try. This is the Town Forest Enhancement Project is the next CPC article. They're looking for $9,700 to do things like boundary markers, deer enclosures, rain garden plantings. It's all listed out in the article. So that's the next, the penultimate article. And then finally, the last one is a simple zoning bylaw, which just cleans up some language for the design review process. That's it.
Okay. Any questions on any of these articles as they've been presented? Okay. Seeing none, if I can get a motion to approve and post the town, oh, sorry, Steve.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Let's just backtrack a little. So we're inserting an article.
Correct.
So where is it being inserted, and do we have the language available to show? I'm assuming that we need to do a vote to insert or to publicly accept this warrant, to support this warrant, and then a vote to put it on the warrant.
So I think, so we can insert the article, which is the one for the taking of the public safety property.
Right.
We can just insert that. It would be under, it would be article number
5.
5.
Article
5 or 6
You're not going to keep the Brave Acts together?
together?
Yeah, they should be together. Yeah, hold on.
I think it should be 6.
It's 6, Jen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 6.
So it'll be 6 and everything will then flow down.
Yeah, shift. It's where the blank space is on the paperwork that we were sent.
Okay,
And then when you vote to close and post it, that's the one that you're.
that's the, okay, very good. So I move that we accept the warrant as presented with the inclusion of the taking of the 12 to 16 East Union Street property as article number 6.
I can get a second.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Kinsman,
Aye.
Vignani. You were muted, but I saw your mouth go. There you go.
Right. You need to amend that to 12 to 16 Union, not East Union.
Okay.
Union, correct.
Noted.
Sorry. That's what I was trying to.
That's okay. Vignani,
But yeah, aye.
Mitchell,
Aye.
Shearer,
Aye.
and Greaves. Aye. Great. So that will get posted. And then available. FinCom will do their final and get it up.
You mean with their recs?
I mean, I know the recs don't come up right away, but this will now get posted and then they'll do their work of doing recommendations.
Yes, we're meeting with them on Tuesday, I believe.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Moving on. Priority project update.
Oh.
Rail Transit District.
Do you want to go back? Do you want to go back and talk about logistics?
Yeah, let's jump down to town meeting logistics. That'd be good. Thank you.
So what we're originally looking into, and Brandy and Jen, please correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm just basing this on the last conversation and then subsequent conversations with a couple of our staff members, is we would be looking at holding the December 8th meeting in the gym as opposed to the auditorium, and utilizing perhaps the cafeteria's overflow. Okay. We have run into a couple of logistical issues just because the gym is being used for a couple of classrooms and a couple of other school uses. So we would actually need to, over the course of a couple of hours, transform that space into something that's conducive for town meeting. I think the moderator would like to utilize the stage that we did last time. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that that's actually going to be possible. We're going to have another conversation with him on Friday morning, right, Brandy? Friday morning?
Yes. I won't be there, but yes.
Okay. So, we'll talk a little bit more about the logistics and everything and how we make sure that we get a screen there for presentations, et cetera. So that's what we're thinking there. Jen, anything else you want to add with regards to that? Again, if you remember the seating arrangement last time, it was spaced out pretty well. We had cross ventilation going on with fans and keeping the doors open. it's we're trying to make the best out of a bad situation.
And Michael, this is the gym, right? So we'll be in the gym. Do we know the level of filtration at the high school? You know, have they been able to get the ERM13 filters, which filter out viruses?
I do not know. I don't know that.
There is a bit of a shortage of them, so I just wonder, and hopefully the school was able to get some. That could be, you know, helpful to people. Should actually, it'd be good to know that, you know, what they're using for filtration and how often the air is turning over in terms of ventilation.
Okay.
The one thing I would add to that, Michael, is that we talked about having seat numbers and making sure we know who is sitting in what seat, so we can, if there happened to be a positive COVID case, we could identify who's around for contact tracing, like in the immediate area. So that's something that Sergeant Berman was advocating for. So that's something that we're still working out the logistics of it, but that's something that's important to do too.
Didn't they do that, or weren't they gonna do that at the Springtown meeting?
I thought we did.
I thought we did something like that at Springtown meeting. I don't know for sure, but
because we had ushers, right, bring people to the seat.
Yes.
I just don't know if we knew exactly who was in which seat.
And so so regardless of what happened in the spring, that's what we're hoping to do in the fall, so we can know who is there. That way, if we have any close contact issues, we should be able to identify them fairly quickly.
You know, the way to do that is that as people are sitting down, you assign them to a seat and make sure they sit there, because then, you know, you have your list of seats, and you know, as people sign in, you just put their name in it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the easiest way.
And they walk over to the seat that they were
Right.
assigned to. Correct.
Right.
Will they be taking temperatures as well as they come in? Because they didn't do that the last one. And now there's an increase of cases coming. I'm just wondering if that's going to be something that will be done.
I don't think that's the plan right now.
Okay.
I did show up late at the last meeting, so.
I think one thing they're thinking that taking temperatures, I'm sorry, Jen, is not as effective. And I'm not sure if it's still being recommended, but.
Okay. I just see what's happening out, you know.
Yeah, no, that's important. Sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can just stand there with vaccines and vaccinate people.
Unfortunately, not by December 8th.
I know. One can
That'd be great.
That would get great turnout, though.
So a couple things just to clarify. I would, you know, definitely feel like we need to have the cafeteria available as overflow, and if absolutely necessary, the auditorium, depending on what we expect for turnout. I would also like to recommend, and I've heard this from some other communities that did it, is that if there's any presentations that are going to be done at town meeting, they need to be up and available on the website at least 2 weeks before, so that people can watch them and then reach out to those committees or whoever sponsored it. I mean, not to stop conversation or question asking at town meeting, but for some people, you know, if they have the opportunity to see the information before town meeting, they're going to go into it that much more informed. And I think because of wanting to limit the time, if possible, at this town meeting, the more information we can have available to the people trying to make decisions beforehand, the better.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yep.
To Yolanda's point, you know, maybe it would be helpful, and I don't know what the best mechanism for it is, but I know, Michael, you typically go through the warrant articles, whether it's on WACA. Maybe there's a way to do it in a webinar fashion where people can kind of ask some questions, just because
I think similar to a Zoom meeting, right? So instead of his, you know, town manager's forum that he'd used to do at town hall or the senior center, we make sure he's, you know, we schedule some available, you know, one night and maybe even a Saturday morning leading up to town meeting, so people have the opportunity to go to that forum and ask questions.
And the webinars that were done for the school reopening were really great, because people could put in questions, but it wasn't it was just it was a good format, I think, because it gave people the opportunity to ask questions, but it was kind of a sort of a controlled environment where it wasn't, it was easy to manage, I think, for Mr. Adams.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Any other talk or conversation about December 8th or thoughts?
Well, do we know what Adam's thinking in terms of speaking times and roles and all those kind of logistics? I imagine he's got some pretty strong limitations in terms of times.
Yeah, I think similar to Adam's approach to the Springtown meeting, less is better. Obviously he is very attuned to making sure that people have the ability to have the information that they need to make an informed vote and be able to discuss the issues as necessary. But I do think what he calls like the preliminaries, he did not do those before at the Springtown meeting. I don't think he will do them again.
Has he thrown out a presentation time limit? I think
he usually he's been at 5 minutes for many years. Many of us, including myself, have challenged that. But I think he probably would keep a little bit more of a tighter rein on it.
Yeah, so that'd be good if people could commit to, staying with that.
The other thing I would recommend the next time you meet is that I think it was great that you saved seats for select board and school committee, but let's verify that people are going to be there. And if they're not going to be there, don't save the seats for them. Because I think if people can be more in that middle part, like we lost almost a whole row of people being able to be close because not everyone attended. So
I agree. Okay. Okay, before we move on to the January one, I just want to make sure everybody knows they have to come in still physically and sign the warrant. So
yes.
Okay.
Okay, good reminder.
We need to do that sooner rather than later.
So Sue, we need to call up to schedule a time to come in to sign for it? Okay.
All right. Can you leave it downstairs, outside, at the mail downstairs? Does that make sense, or is that too?
Somebody might abscond with it, and then
yeah, all right.
She just usually leaves it on the table outside of the select board. It's the
yeah,
same
so that's
as,
pretty easy. Yeah. Okay.
Rob, do you want me to run it by? You want me to drop it off like in your?
No, that's fine.
I mean, I have no problem doing that.
Thanks. No.
Okay, so moving on to January, we really haven't focused a lot on January just because we're trying to get everything done for December. I will say that we did talk about at the last meeting a process of having people come in. I'll just use the term batches. That sounds very bureaucratic, but instead of people coming one by one up to the microphone, and I think Adam was open to that. Just need to work out some logistics. I think that's something that the board was hoping for, and he's certainly open to it.
Yeah, I just think the idea of people have, I mean, yes, it's a public vote, and yes, they need to stand up or vote one way or the other, but to make someone have to come up to the microphone one at a time and vote, I just think there are better ways to process it. It's an open town meeting, but it's not, we're not doing it. I don't know. That just to me didn't seem right. It's not how we do town meeting. You stand up and you take a vote as a group, one way or the other. So I feel that that's better.
So that's all I have in terms of logistics.
Can I just to revisit that point. So what's the alternative? And why did I'm just trying to remember why we wanted people to come up one by one.
It wasn't. So it was just so it would still be a public vote, Rob. And the alternative, so one of the points that I made, so in addition to, having almost like an intimidation factor, is I still think that the majority of people who are going to vote are going to show up in the first 30 minutes. And so if you have people lined up one by one, I mean, if you get there at the tail end of that 30 minutes, you could be waiting for hours before you actually get up to vote if you do this one by one type of sequence. So the alternative would be like I said, the only term I can think of is batches, where maybe you bring in 25, 50 people at a time, they vote. We'll be the tellers will be collecting the cards, and we'll be able to tally them at the end and see, the results of the vote. So that we get.
So are we thinking we might change that, or what's?
Well, the initial thought was I'll just call it the single file line. That was the initial thought. The change is that we do it in more smaller groups.
Yeah, so is that under active discussion? I'm just trying. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So right now, or the original thought from Adam was people would come in one at a time and vote yes or no for each of the projects and drop a card. Now again, I just don't think that's not the feeling of town meeting. So now the idea is people would come in and en masse, they'd stand up and say yes or no, and we'd count those cards, and then the next group would come in and come out.
Okay, so that sounds like a good resolution.
And maybe you do it either by last name or by district or, whatever, and figure out how many people at a time, and then you keep having them come through.
Yeah, we were talking about something like that, whether it's alphabetical and making suggested times so that people weren't all coming at the same time.
Right.
Or
you're anticipating much greater amount of participation in the January meeting.
Yes.
You are
than the December.
All right. And what's the basis for that approach? Because I guess for me,
unfounded optimism.
I think hopefully there's a lot of participation. I'm just and it would seem to me that doing things in batches is really going to be an impediment to participation, I think.
Interesting.
But I guess I'm just trying to understand what the difference is between holding the meeting in December the way we are and the meeting in January, and having it so radically different. I'm just not.
That's the other idea, right? Is see how it goes in December, see how many people show up. I would think, and again, this is maybe my optimism, it's a vote for two major capital projects. As we've seen in this town, major capital projects bring out a lot of people to the town meeting, right? 600-700 people at once coming to town meeting. So I'm expecting that same kind of thing for.
Let me follow up on what you said earlier about, we have, and I'm not sure how many people would fit in the gym. Now I'm talking December.
Yeah.
Yolanda, you mentioned.
I think 150 for spring or 180 for spring. When we did the summer town meeting, there was like 150 or 180 chairs.
Let me finish my question first before you answer it, all right? So how many people will be able to fit in the gym? And then you had mentioned having overflow in the cafeteria, having overflow in the auditorium. So how many people would we, under that condition, would be accommodated? And how would that be any different? I guess, it's just not making sense to me right now.
I think the idea, for some reason, that Adam was thinking if there weren't a lot of people at one time, which is why he wanted to do one at a time. But in regards to the sense of, one at a time voting is not town meeting. That is one at a time voting. I guess to your point, Steve, if we feel that we can, with correct seating and correct distance, we could fit 600 or 700 people in those three rooms, then we could just do one vote and be done.
Well, I don't know that. All I'm asking is how many people can fit into the gym? Do we have a number? Has that been calculated?
Yeah, we did calculate it.
It was either 150 or 180.
Okay, and how many people would fit into an overflow area like the cafeteria? And
that we'd have to figure that out in regards to separated seating, and the same for the auditorium.
Yeah, I'm just asking questions. That's all.
No, I think that makes sense.
I hear what you guys are saying. The moderator is really opposed. He thinks that in a typical town meeting with these types of capital projects, there'd be 750 to 1,000 people that would come to vote. So we talked about potential multiple sites. He really doesn't want that. So, we're looking at ways to limit the number of people that would be there at once.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, to that point, people have said, well, so they can watch everything on TV and then come vote
Exactly.
and not be there for the discussion.
But you think about it, how many people are actively there to discuss versus there to vote.
Right. This, again, as we've said many times, people come to town meeting for something like this and they know how they're going to vote. They're not waiting until they get there to determine what their vote is going to be.
And I thought the January one, I really liked the idea that people could watch remotely through the long periods of time and really allow them to hear the discussion and the complexities and the presentation without having to actually be in the room, and then move at one brief period to vote, which I think is, a really probably the best idea we can come up with at this point. And I just kind of like that concept.
But think about it for a second. If you're going to let 50 people in, let's say 50, and you're saying there's going to be 1,000 people, how long is that going to take? Are we going to start town meeting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
Are you?
I think he's asking. To Steve's point, right? If we think 1,000 people are going to come and vote, and you're going to do,
so.
I just used the number 50 just to kind of use it as an illustration.
You just said 700 to 1,000. So
Yep.
let's say there's 1,000 people. Let's say
So
there's
there's-
800 people.
So we need to figure out a way to manage that volume of people, and whether it's divided up into by alphabetically or precincts or however we do it. It's
I get all that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying the practicality of saying, 50 people at a time. So,
But
I mean,
that's
during
not
a 2-hour block.
made up. That is a number. That is a number I just made up. And like,
right? It could be 100 people at a time,
in terms
right?
of
If we do however many can fit in the gym at once,
this is still a work in progress, apparently.
yes, it's still,
Yeah.
January is definitely still a work in
I think
progress.
the beauty of it is that you don't have people sitting in a room listening to a lot of discussion and debate. They're not there, then they come in and vote however we have them do it. And I
I
think
get
that's
that
the
point,
beauty
but
of it.
who's going to come out at let's say
6
your
o'clock at night?
time is 8 o'clock at night on a crappy January night.
Come on, think optimistically, Steve. It's going to be a beautiful day.
It's going to be on a Saturday. So
Saturday.
it would be a Saturday,
There you
and
go.
there would be a voting time. So there would be, say, a 2-hour time frame where people could vote. So that.
Yeah,
there
but
would
to
be-
that point, 2 hours for 1,000 people to come through and vote?
Five-
That's not enough
No,
time.
We're not gonna have 1,000 people.
I'm with you, Rob.
That goes
These
to
are-
the point. If we're not going to have that volume of people, then why are we going through this mechanism, and why aren't we?
Well, I'd say for the reason I said before, because these could be long, complicated discussions. And I think the less time you have a bunch of people sitting in the room, the better.
And I think similar to what I said for the December meeting, any presentations that are going to be made need to be up and available 2 weeks before so people can be watching them.
That as
And,
well.
and we'll
Yep.
do another town meeting a town managers forum beforehand. Granted, it's not the same as being in a town meeting and having debate, but at least if there's some more information available ahead of time,
I
you can be
agree with
prepared.
Yolanda. My opinion is that I believe most people know how they're going to vote for the Mendez School and how they're going to vote for the public safety bill. I think that's people know already. I think what they don't know, I think there's going to be more discussion about something like the Valentine overlay district or something on the December than we would actually have for the public safety building in the Mendez.
The other thing is, let's see what happens at the December 8th meeting, right? How many people turn up? We'll do our contact tracing. And if our numbers don't spike 2 weeks after that, that tells us that what we did safely. I'm not saying it's an experiment. I'm not.
No, that's not.
I'm just saying that we're basing our January decisions without any real facts. as to whether or not what we're going to do in December is going to work. Right? We've already, you know, Adam has already said December is going to be a regular town meeting.
Yeah. And
in regards to presentations and voting and how we do it. Well, if we don't have any spikes from that and we keep people separated, I mean, I would have loved to have done something outside, but I know Adam's not open to that.
I think you're making the case that the December one should be like the January one, not the other way around. But
well, I'm making the case that they either should be done the same
way.
And I question the, you know, just the analysis of the January dynamic. I think people know how they feel about both of these projects. We have talked about both of them for months and months and months. We've distributed information for months and months. So I would say I'm fairly confident that there's going to be more discussion about some of those December articles, you know, that we might spend. And it's, you know, when you reflect back on town meetings we participated in, and the amount of time that we've spent on articles that are the most ridiculous things that we think are, you know, just going to, you know, vote and move on. But we've got, you know, we could be on the stormwater lien article for an hour.
well, that's what I'm afraid of.
You ain't wrong.
So those are kind of my, you know, really, I don't have any data to support this. It's my gut sense.
Okay. Want to move on to priority projects?
I think you guys are going in the right direction with the January one, and think about it in December. That's my feeling on it.
So you don't think this is a priority discussion? I think it is.
It's important. It's important.
Yeah, I think we're overthinking the whole matter, to be very honest.
Like I said, I saw a picture of Medway's town meeting last night or whenever it was, and you know, people were socially distanced. They had about 100 people. What their biggest discussion was whether or not to change Board of Selectmen to Selectboard. And this was their third time taking the vote, and it finally passed.
Wow. Well, the thing is, you know, you're playing the odds. It's not just being socially distant. It's how good is your air circulation? How long are you there? Who there may or may not be sick? You know, that kind of thing. So it's playing the odds.
I mean,
So
it's interesting. The thing is, you know, as we've been saying to everybody, don't go anywhere if you're sick. If you've been throwing up, if you have a temperature, if you have the sniffles, if you have a cough, don't go.
Well, but some people are asymptomatic. That's the problem.
That's true. That is the problem.
That is, you know, that's the issue, really. So.
All right.
Okay.
Anyway, good luck, guys. So.
Good luck.
You're not going to be there, Rob.
No, I'll be there, but I'll be watching what's going on. If it gets if Steve gets too close to me, I'm taking off.
No, it's just trying to take a really awful situation and try to make the best case scenario out of it. So you know,
the other thing we have to keep in mind is things could be getting worse. I mean, that's what seems to be happening, unfortunately.
And the moderator is really that's where his thinking is too. So, you know, if he had his druthers, I think we would put this whole thing off until the spring. So
I agree 110%. I think he's been very clear about that.
Yeah, I'm not just realize I'm not criticizing the decision making process. I'm just, you know, again, it's just, you know, things that I've thought about relative.
And I would say all of us sitting here, if we could hold off on any of this, we would. But, you know, the tax implications for some of these things that we're looking to vote on in December, you know, projects that we're trying to move forward, if we hold off, certainly both the school and the public safety building, if we wait until the spring, we could still be dealing with stuff. And then there would be other issues. And then prices could go up, or we'd lose, you know, for the school building, we could be out of the process. Now, if it doesn't pass, we'd be out of the process as well, but at least we're putting the vote to the people, you know, in the best way we can.
Yep. Okay. We move to priority projects.
Yes.
Okay.
So RTD, RT, I'm just going to get started. Rail Transit District. So there was a site visit last week between the applicant UGC and DHCD, and Emma Snelling, she represented the town, just to look over the site and look over anything. It went very, very well. UGC will be moving forward with the next step of the process, which is to, they do need to wait for something from DHCD. And then they can move forward with their comprehensive permit application. So, and that will go before the ZBA.
Okay.
Next is the downtown project. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of, well, I'm going to start off with the good news. So we do finally have the contract signed, and so they will be starting, GOCO will be starting December 1st. Again, they're going to try to start doing a lot of the undergrounding work, weather permitting. Hopefully it's about as good a time as any with regards to the business community, just because of the slowdown. So hopefully the impacts from a downtown construction project would have minimal impact to the business community. But we'll also, you'll be seeing a lot more about that project and things like traffic control plans and more notification over the next few weeks as that gets started.
So Michael, I just had a thought, and I'm sure you guys have thought about this in regards to the downtown. When we're looking at redoing the streetscapes and intersections and stuff, are we taking into account the potential change if the mill building project goes through?
Yes, they're having,
okay.
Rich Gordon and his team and Bill Paley have been having pretty significant discussions. If you recall, like Rich's initial plan actually has that Pleasant Street, Main Street intersection now like a four-way intersection.
Correct.
I don't know if that's the way it's going to be eventually or finally, but they're having discussions about that, and with the understanding that the mill building, the owners of the mill building or the developers will need to pay for any kind of changes associated.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So that's the good news. The bad news is that unfortunately, I did find out today that we were not successful in our MassWorks application for this project. We have received one MassWorks grant for it. When we realized how much of a funding gap we had when we got the bids in, you know, I put together a funding plan. I showed it to the board. You know, we moved forward, but I also put in another MassWorks grant application just because it's nice to spend other people's money as opposed to our own. So unfortunately, we were not successful with that. So.
Do you get feedback when you don't?
Yeah, so the feedback that we received was that the project was too similar to our last application, to which the response is it's actually, the reason it's similar is because it's the same project. You know, we thought we had a very strong application because ours is it's not only shovel ready, we got bids in hand. And the town was going to contribute some funds to help close this funding gap, and we were asking for the state to help. Again, it was a very solid application. And then also, I think some of the other feedback was that they were looking for new projects. I don't know. The mantra we always hear from state government is shovel ready, shovel ready, shovel ready.
Right.
You know, bottom line is I don't think we'll ever really know what kind of went on. I will say that there were 100 applications funded 35 projects.
Okay. This year. I wonder if they're concerned about dollars moving forward, so they didn't want to put them all out.
They did have less to distribute this year.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, anyway. So moving to the public safety building. So again, I'll start off with good news. We did receive a positive vote from the Conservation Commission on our order of conditions. So that is one hurdle that has been crossed, and I think just want to thank everybody who was supportive of that and as part of the process and showed up at the meetings. We have just a great team, engineering team working on this project. And obviously we've got a great building committee and we've got great staff. And the Conservation Commission, I thought they were very methodical in their deliberation and the things that they asked for and the things they wanted to modify. So we definitely appreciate what they did. So it was actually a special meeting, I should point out, that they held just for this. So that is the news related to that. Anything else, Jen, Steve, Joe?
No. Well, just one quick thing. We had an issue with a subcontractor with respect to elevators, and on the second proposal that was sent out for bids for elevators, we did not receive any bids. So what's happening is that the general contractor will hire a elevator company, and that will go under his purview for that aspect. Other than that, everything's been running very smoothly with respect to contractors and subs.
Yeah, I would, it's interesting. Elevators are kind of a unique industry, and there's only a handful of companies. And so consequently, you don't always get a very broad representation of bidders. But, again, and Michael, I agree with your statements about Concom. I think they were methodical with their approach. And but I don't think we can say enough about our site engineers, our wetland engineers as well. I think they did a great job with putting together the presentations.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, awesome job.
So the pre-qualification has been done. So we'll be going out to bid shortly, right, Jen? And fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll get some good bids in, and that will be very, very good. So I'll move on to the Warren District and Valentine project. Just to reiterate with the Valentine project, the proposals are due on next Tuesday. And if we get any, we'll start reviewing those. Ultimately, a recommendation would need to be put forward to the select board, and it would go to town meeting. So be interested to see what comes out from that.
Sorry, Michael. So the process is if you have any proposals, they'll come in, you guys and the committee will review them and then discuss the merits and then decide which one to bring forward to us. Is that the process? Okay. Can you let us know the night that they'll be discussing the projects and the merits?
I can.
Okay.
I don't know. Were we going to do that as a subcommittee, Jen? Do you remember that? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But then it would need, the full. It would be.
So I would think their full group would need to make a recommendation to bring to us, correct? Okay.
Yeah, Yolanda, so typically what we do with subcommittees or committees for RFP review, which we've done, you give them the RFP, there's a scoring criteria.
Right.
They to score it, you come together and have a conversation, the full group, they would make a recommendation to that full committee. So it's done in a smaller group, just, because.
Yeah, I can just imagine. Okay.
Yes. I mean, imagine the scholarship, the BAA scholarship group.
Yeah.
So. I caught Steve and Rob's ears. I saw they both perked up. We actually talked about most of the stuff about the Warren District, just with regards to 433 Chestnut Street and where that is. So basically, things are essentially on hold until that town meeting vote, but we do hope to vote shortly after that. The barn. So when's it going to be advertised, Jen? You're the.
So it will be advertised the first week of December. And then, hold on one second. So this also requires pre-qualification because it will be a large enough bid. And so pre-qual we'll have to get pre-qualification. It'll happen mid-December, and then bids will come in January. Just we're sort of trying to give people enough time with the holidays to have an opportunity to review all the specs. You know, it's a pretty large document. I'm trying to work my way through it now. And that way we're not rushing people. When I talked to our architects, they didn't think it was something that would necessarily start, you know, right in January, given weather. And so giving them a longer period of time in hopes that we get a more competitive bid.
The estimate was almost $1 million just for building a shell. So hopefully bids will come in under that. All right, and then moving on to town manager report. We did cover the town meeting logistics. Did just want to go through some of the COVID numbers with us or with you. So as of today, this afternoon, we had 77 open cases. Now 12 of those 77 are part of the cluster at the Warren Center. Those haven't been reclassified yet to their home addresses. And again, we're seeing the majority of these cases in like a cluster type of capacity. So there's one household with 5 positives, one household with 4. You know, if you look at all of it, out of the 77, 34, so just a little under half, are at 9 addresses only. So this isn't like a super spreading event that's happening. They are happening more in clusters, and because of the good work of our contact tracers, we're able to like get to what they call patient 0 pretty quickly, and you know, initiate the quarantine procedure and limit the spread that they have with other people and with other members of the community. Another thing I want to just bring up is, if you recall, we actually brought in a testing machine on our own. So we have our own testing machine, we have our own kits. I was recently getting a report from Sergeant Berman about that because we're down to about 20 kits. He was going to pick up some more. You know, we've ended up testing over 50 teachers through this machine. We have tested other departments as well, but that has really been a critical instrument that we have been able to use to basically keep anything from spreading within the schools, but then also keep our schools functioning and going in this hybrid direction. So I just want to give kudos to the COVID team and Sergeant Berman for initiating getting that machine. It's really been helpful for us.
Mike, I do have a question with respect to that machine and its use. Our first responders being given the opportunity to be tested through this machine because they're in direct contact with the public on a daily basis. I'm kind of curious as to if that's being done.
Yeah, actually, they're utilizing that. In fact, we had one case where we thought maybe 2 of our groups, firefighting groups, were potentially exposed. We were able to get them in, get them tested, realize that they were negative, and so we were able to get them back.
Thank you.
You can imagine what it would be like if we were 2 groups down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Oh, for sure.
Hey, Michael, question, you know, what's your process moving forward with replacing the health director?
So currently we're advertising for the health director, so that posting is up, and so we're accepting applications. I see Sergeant Berman continuing in this capacity for a while.
Just that we have
Jen,
coverage.
did you add
So,
anything?
you know, we obviously, we have Tom Curran who does food inspections. We have Tom Ryder, who will be helping us with Title V and septic inspections. We have Steve Ward, who is a retired health director, who will be helping us when necessary on housing code. So we're covered in the interim as we work through to find a replacement for Mark.
Thank you.
I also neglected to mention the school nurses, Audrey LaCroix and her team. They've done a really good job as well in managing this. So a lot of team effort going on here. And then, so with the budget update, I will be sending you, unfortunately, I don't have it for tonight. I was hoping to have the quarterly update to send to you. I haven't had a chance to review most of it. I haven't had a chance to review the revolving funds yet. Overall, things are looking okay in terms of collections. Real estate taxes are looking good. We are lagging a little bit on the motor vehicle excise tax, which is not unexpected. But I'll provide all of that data, those sheets to you. And certainly if you have any questions after looking it over.
Michael, have you heard anything about tax bills having a problem going out, or sewer bills or anything like that?
I have not.
The reason I ask is we do all of our bills so they automatically charge. And we got one in the mail, and we had a late fee and an interest fee. And we were both like, we never got it, online, and then we saw it in the mail. So if you could check on that, because if it happened to us, it might have happened to other people.
So just so I can clarify on it. So you've signed up to the service to where you get notified via email.
Yep.
And does it automatically pay?
Yep.
So, and then you got a notification.
We got a bill in the mail with a late fee and interest rate and interest. And we were like, so if you could just check into that.
And that was on the water sewer?
Pretty sure.
Okay.
It's either water and sewer or our trash. One of the ones that we don't, I think it might've been water. No, it might've been trash.
Okay. Now I'll look into that because
Okay.
That shouldn't happen. And then the last thing, it's not on the agenda. I wanted to just let everybody know we're working with this new company called Mondafora. I don't know if you've seen anything about this. It's actually through the Ashland Business Association. So this company, Mondafora, they actually work to provide an online platform for some of our local businesses. So, there's obviously a lot of convenience for something like Amazon and some of the larger mailing type of, Amazon's just kind of the king of it right now. Mondafora is an opportunity for some of our local retailers to kind of provide that same type of platform for, hopefully people will shop locally. So the Ashland Business Association, they're actually going to be having a webinar. It's really geared for local retailers tomorrow the 19th at 9 a.m. But I would encourage you to, look into it and just as select board members and just kind of spread the word about it when more information comes out there. We really hope it's it'll help level the playing field for some of our local businesses as well. So,
How do you spell that?
Mondafora, Mondofora. And really want to thank Wendy Pine and Beth Reynolds for, really kind of initiating this. So, anyway, that's that.
Okay. On to board updates. Let's start with Rob.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make a brief mention of actually a relatively pretty good article in the Metro West News on Saturday about the Eversource pipeline. So if you haven't read that, it has a lot of good logical quotes from Michael about our position and one insufficient quote from me calling them a ploy. But seriously, the one point, and Mike made some good points about our technical position versus Eversource's latest idea of contacting landowners about the 1 versus 2 pipe. And I just wanted to, really remind people that, they never responded, of course, to our exhaustive review of the need for the pipe, or, have not responded to any of that, nor do they feel the need to it. And I just questioned again the whole idea of moving ahead with this in the face of climate change and, the way emissions control is happening in renewable energy. They're just going to be, history has already overtaken them, but they're still moving ahead with this. So I thought that was unfortunate. And that was the perspective that didn't make it into the article for whatever reason. But I just wanted to, so if you haven't read it, take a look at it. It was ran in Saturday's paper, I think. And Michael, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
No, I think if you have an opportunity to read the article, it says what needs to be said. So,
yeah. And the other thing I wanted to, if we could have maybe a brief discussion. I'm on the, as you know, I'm your representative on the MBTA Advisory Committee and the Commuter Rail Subcommittee. I know that Yolanda also was working on this in MAPC, and Mike's with town managers or city managers dealing with MBTA's proposal to reduce service due to ridership, of course, ridership decline. And the most immediate effect here is they're going to discontinue weekend service on the commuter rail and service after 9. I'm not up on a lot of the other details, so I was one thing I do want to hear what people are thinking about, the board members are that, and also the idea of maybe getting some information more from our own residents about what they're thinking. I'm having a discussion tomorrow with Jack Lewis and Dennis Giambetti, I'm sorry, from Karen's staff, and just get what they're hearing. I know Jack's been getting Jack's told me that he's getting a lot of concern from people who need, especially service workers who need to use the train on weekends and no longer can. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out a little bit about if we could maybe start getting some information from our own residents about, if they're using commuter rail, are the Metro West Transit now, and what do they think they're going to be doing in the future, which I think people probably don't know, but then maybe they have some ideas if they think they're going back to commuter rail, and if they are they going back in the same numbers that they used to go back? Because I think there's two changes we're dealing with. One is the immediate COVID change, which is pretty drastic, but there's also, I think, a long range transformation to remote work. And so we may or may not see these kind of commuting patterns, at least to the same degree. In my discussions with advocates for mass transit, they're of course saying, oh, we can't let them cut anything back. People need it. We'll get the funding in the future. So let's not make any cuts because they won't replace them. But there are also, maybe some long-term changes that we should be cognizant of. So I'm just asking for maybe some feedback or ideas as we move forward with this process in terms of what we should be doing as we participate in these various groups. So I don't know, any thoughts or ideas on that?
Rob, the only thing I can tell you is that, when I head off to do sub work, I drive by there at 6:30, 6:45 by the train station. And I think that the number of cars has still remained the same ever since the COVID-19 sent people home and stay at work at home. If there's 20 to 25 cars, in that entire lot, I mean, I may be off maybe 4 or 5, but not a whole heck of a lot.
And you can see why the T is their ridership is down, their ridership revenue is way down, so they want to make cuts. So that's the kind of common sense kind of response. But then there's the whole idea of, getting federal stimulus funds and maintaining service and fighting climate change and reducing emissions and allowing people who don't have access to cars to continue to use mass transit. So that's kind of the pushback.
Well, and as I said earlier in the meeting, Rob, these changes aren't going to be taking place until the spring, and I think are going to be heading back and needing the public transit, right? Now they're saying, well, we have to make these changes, but they'll be effective in the spring. They don't have the ridership now, so reduce what you're doing now, save your money if you can. Unfortunately, I was told either because of their budgets or their policies or something, they can't make the changes that quickly.
Yeah, no, they have to go through they're going through the public comment period now before they can make changes.
Right.
I think, Rob, to go to your point that, the whole state of transportation, I think is in flux right now.
Yep.
I don't know if you saw the DOT pushed back the decision on the Mass Pike
With the letter today.
reconfiguration.
Yolanda shared with us, yeah.
Yeah. So it's, it's a lot of dynamic going on right now. So,
No, it's too bad they don't look at their own salaries and cut their salaries and allow the trains to keep flowing into Boston, especially where there are people that are relying on that for transportation so they can go to work and keep their families above water.
but
Yeah.
remote working is going to really be a much bigger part of our economy.
Yeah.
And, we don't really know what the impacts will be on mass transportation.
Well, the number of businesses that are reducing, either reducing their office needs or increasing, but not having everyone come in, it's going to affect the traffic flow and the need for traffic, then the need for public transportation. And I was in a session today for MAPC talking about their, Metro Common 2050 program. And one of the things we were talking about was transportation. And we talked about, what really needs to be addressed is that first mile, last mile, right? I mean, think about it for you, Rob, right? When you were heading into Worcester, part of your problem was making sure you got to the train station on time to park.
Yeah.
If you had transportation that got you from your house to the train station, you wouldn't even need a car, or at least not as much.
And sometimes I rode my bike.
Right.
There's no good bike trails.
That's what roadways are for. Anyway, so as Steve said, what transportation looks like now is going to be very different in 10, 20, or, 30 years.
So I don't one of the things I was thinking, and was to try to maybe we could survey folks or maybe formally or informally get some ideas. I know if you ask me, am I going to be using the train, say, this time next year? I guess I would be unsure, but I'd probably say, yeah, I'll be back on it 2 or 3 days a week. And if other people have at least some thinking about if they're going to return or if they need weekend service or they need to go after hours or they don't have an alternative like, I do at the moment or many people do, it'd be good to know that. And
I would say, Michael and Jen, can we put something out, like via Facebook or something like that, or with your email, your weekly email, Michael, let people know that we're looking for resident input on this change or potential change to public transportation, and either send it to all of our emails, or if we want to set up an email for it that we can look at. I think we can certainly ask the question.
Yeah, I think
it doesn't hurt.
I think that's exactly the direction we should probably go in. Again, we could set up a special email address. That way we could, if we get a lot, we could just kind of collate them. And I don't think we'd be able to be in a position where we could put together like a formal survey.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's necessary. I just think, anecdotally, if people want to give their feedback through email, I think that would help.
And that would be helpful to us, I think, as we meet with other committees or whatever, as we go through our, advocacy efforts and deal with Jack and Karen's office about this and the MBTA. It'd be good to know the impact on our residents and our constituents as much as we can.
I think, at least for my perspective, my company, I think they're looking that eventually once the vaccine is out, people are going to go back to normal and go back into, that's sort of the general assumption. I don't know whether or not, we're not going back at least until the first of the year, but that's all that my company's committing to is really the first of the year. So I think it's tough. I think it's really tough to know what the expectations are going to be from bigger employers. So, but I do think that once cuts are made, it's going to be really tough to reinstate service. And, we've been saying for a long time, we've needed more express trains on the Worcester line. We've needed more service in the middle of the day. And it's been a battle just to get to where it was, and cutting back. I see it as sort of a, like once they start making cuts, they're not going to go back to adding a ton more service to, unless there's an overwhelming need and trains are super crowded. But even then, you know, they haven't shown a desire to really care all that much about that, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So, all right. So more to come. I guess just my last item was to, you know, as to kind of celebrate the results of this, our democracy in the national election, and to, you know, wish the Biden administration the best of luck as they move ahead, and hope this transition to a new national government will proceed soon and work smoothly. So best of luck and congratulations to the Biden-Harris administration.
Okay.
Thank
Steve?
So just to piggyback on your last comment, Rob, Catherine Clark has risen to a high level of leadership in Congress. I think she's slotted to be the fourth ranking House Democrat.
I didn't hear that she was successful. That's
yeah, just came out this afternoon. So
yeah.
So, you know, typically this Saturday would be the Ashland Farmers Market indoor market, which we are not hosting this year. But I do want to encourage folks to support the Hopkinton Indoor Farmers Market, which is this Saturday, the 21st, at Western Nurseries between 9 and 1 this Saturday. So the Hopkinton Farmers Market, and most of the vendors there are vendors that folks would be familiar with from the Ashland Farmers Market. So our sister market, we are encouraging support. Just want to encourage everyone to have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. There'll be a lot of traveling going on, you know, opportunities for gatherings, and hopefully everybody is thinking about how to do this in a safe manner. I do want to also send out best wishes and thanks to our first responders and to our frontline health care workers as well. And then to connect back to, is it Mondo Fora, the, you know, to support our local businesses during this holiday season. You know, all businesses are certainly under pressure right now, but all we can do to support our retail businesses, our restaurants, I think is good things. So think globally and shop locally, support our local businesses. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe? You're muted. You got to unmute.
I keep forgetting, my wife keeps putting me on mute. I would just like to reiterate what Steve just said. Shop Ashland first. That's always been an Ashland Business Association main goal, and to support all the businesses that support all the groups in town that ask for their support throughout the year. It's only fair and equitable that we do that. We have an Affordable Housing Trust meeting tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. We are taking on all new applicants that would like to become members of this committee. We have a vacancy right now. So if you're available and you would like to see how the trust works, please come to the meeting, join us. I know we've had 2 or 3 people already in the meeting several times. And so we're going to be giving ourselves another meeting or so before we make a decision to give our recommendations to the board for an appointment, and maybe even ask if we can add one as an associate should there be an issue. We'd always have an extra person available to keep the meetings up and running. And I would just like to wish everybody a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. wear a mask, you stay, socially distant from one another. It's all common sense. Just remember that these are the things that have to be done to stop the spread. And just keep your eyes posted for all the information and any public forums that we decide to do for the school and for the public safety building. And we'll make those announcements for the future because it's coming upon us. So I want to thank the staff for all the work that you have done to date on all the projects that we have, and for the entire town employees who come to work. They don't complain. Public works are out there working every day, doing what they need to do. Public safety is out there every day, doing what they need to do. Having the ability to be a sub, I can tell you that the teachers are doing a phenomenal job with a very difficult task at hand. And virtual learning, yeah, I know it's not an easy thing to do. And I know that teachers would love to have all their students back in a classroom. And that's the ultimate goal. But at the same token, the safety and health of everyone, from staff to teachers to students, is paramount. So just bear with them and do what we need to do to get back to normal, if we ever get back to normal. So that's all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Brandy?
So I have a few things. The first thing I wanted to mention is that we set a first public forum date for the housing production plan. We are scheduled for Tuesday, December 29th at 7 p.m. So I know it's kind of far in the future, but we'll be putting out more information about that the closer that gets to that date. About a week and a half ago, I went on a tour of 22 Elliott Street and Warren Woods. My husband and I met up with Carl Hackinson, who offered us a personal tour of 22 Elliott, and they've done some really good renovations and updates to the property, and he wanted to show those to me. And also, it's amazing what they've done with the partnership with Framingham State. So it's a really great space. It had been about 4 years since I had been to 22 Elliott, so it looks great. So it's a great property, and Warren Woods is just beautiful. So I have to admit I had never been to Warren Woods before. We live closer to the town forest, so typically we think of the town forest as the open space that we walk, but Warren Woods was beautiful. So I just wanted to thank Carl for the tour, and the Conservation Commission and the Land Stewardship Committee for all the work that they do to keep up that property. It's a great jewel for the town, and if you're looking to get out and enjoy some fresh air, I'd highly suggest heading over to Warren Woods.
The only reminder is that if you want to go to Warren Woods with your dog, you have to register. Well, you have to wear a leash, but you have to register your dog. And right now, the only way to do that is through Megan, our conservation agent.
Ah, that is good to know.
Wear the leash?
Warren Woods, you have to have a leash on the dog?
Okay, yes. You did say you were a little vague there, whether it was the owner or the dog.
It's the dog.
And the last thing I wanted to talk about was a really cool internship and mentorship program that the Metro West Commission on the Status of Women is putting together. They're calling it the Athena Council, and it's for young women 15 to 19. And it's an opportunity for girls that are concerned about social justice and gender equality to intern with the commission. The commission wants to set up some listening groups to really understand the issues and concerns of their youngest constituents. So it's a really good opportunity for girls to really learn what can be done from a legislative perspective and how to make a difference. I know that you hear about girls in general, or people in general, young people wanting to make a difference. Especially there's been a lot of issues that have been raised to the surface this past year on social justice and reproductive rights and things like that. And so this is a way that girls can get involved and learn a little bit. The internship isn't a long commitment, so they're not limiting the number of girls that can apply for this. I'm going to post some information about how people can reach out to the commission and apply. Ms. St. Cor, the high school principal, is also sending out some information to the student body, but I wanted to put this out there. I think it's a really great program. I think it's a really great way for girls to be empowered and get involved and make a difference. So,
Brandy, are you on the Metro, the?
No, I'm not on the commission.
Okay.
Actually, I had gone to the Diwali Festival a week or so ago, and I ran into Nancy Rosenblum, who's one of the commissioners.
Okay.
I had been to it was actually the last in-person event that the commission did back in, I think it was February. And it was a great event. It's amazing the people that they pull in and the experts, and they had a great panel discussion on everything from reproductive rights to what is happening with lower income women and how we can help support them. So they're doing some really good work, and this is a way that they're trying to broaden who they're reaching and making sure that they're engaging the younger generation. So
great. Okay.
That is it.
Okay, I have a few things. You have taken some of them for me. The first is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. the Mendez School Feasibility Committee is having a forum via Zoom at 7 p.m. You can find the information, I'm sure, on either the town website or the school website, but certainly the Facebook page for the Mendez Project. Tomorrow morning at 8 is the Metro West Regional Collaborative Legislative Breakfast from 8 to 9:30. We have been told that Senator Spilka should be there, as well as a number other of our local legislators. So if you're not doing anything at 8 o'clock, if you want, I can send out and you can probably still register. Friday, Senator Spilka is having her virtual Senior Health Day. She usually does it on a Saturday in October, but it's a virtual that you can sign up for. And seeing many of you have mentioned that you're seniors, it would be beneficial to all of you. Okay. The dog park, ashlandbarkpark.org has a raffle going. They have a goal of raising $75,000 to be the matching portion of the Stanton grant, which is the grant that that Jen is graciously working with them on to get the design and then construction costs for the dog park. I have encouraged them to do fundraising so that we do not have to take any money either out of our capital project or CPC to help pay for this, that it's through matching funds by residents that we can get this built. And then the two last things, Ashland Business Association is having a comedy night on Friday, December 11th. You can register, it's $10 if you want to just watch. And then they have a special, if you do $40, you get a special gift bag that you then get something delivered to your home. I have a feeling it'll be very similar to the Wise. I did the YMCA silent auction and event. And in that we got a drink and some other fun stuff. So I would expect that it'll be similar there. And then the last is just lighting Ashland events. I'm sure you've all read Beth's emails. Blush bouquets in downtown Ashland, already some stuff available. I know that there's going to be a virtual Illuminate Ashland event where you can watch performances and then come downtown. And there's also fundraisers where you can buy your own luminaries and put them out. I forget what date it is. So we're looking to light up Ashland just as we tried to color it up back in October. And that's all I have. I would just like to share wishing everybody here. Thank you all for your hard work. Michael, Jen, Susan, the rest of the staff. We are certainly a fortunate town to have town employees who are so dedicated to working for our community. And to the rest of the board, I enjoy working with all of you and wish all of you and your families, and to all of us, all who are watching, whether now or other times, Wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. And on that note, if I can get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I've left you all speechless.
You did. You did.
I heard a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Aye.
Stay
Good night,
safe,
everyone.
Yeah.
Stay
wear a
safe.
mask, and limit your interactions. Good night.